Oh my. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this A&P live stream. Wow, have we got a lot to talk about on this live stream? Have we got a lot to talk about today? A lot of news, a lot of big things have been coming out. What a great time to be a Godzilla fan. I mean, we've got the seriousness of Godzilla -1 that's kicking ass all around the world and universally hailed. We've got the absolute lunacy that is the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie that's coming out. And we've got this new show, Godzilla, or I should say Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. So hopefully my audio is coming in good. Hopefully everybody can hear. But I am not alone today. Joining me, first and foremost, is my good friend, filmmaking colleague, James Frasca, or the other co-host of Welcome to 10 Forward. Say hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim. No, I'm excited to be here. I think my perspective today is going to be from the perspective of I'm not a huge Godzilla fan, but I have watched the Monster Universe, and then I've watched the Shin Godzilla. I didn't get to see -1, and then we recently actually watched Monarch. So my perspective will be of the person that doesn't have a huge investment into Godzilla.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I brought you here, Jim, is because I think you are kind of like what we did with Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, where Antonio was kind of like the odd man out, where he was like, I have no idea about any of this. And he just kind of came and watched it and gave a very fresh perspective. But here's somebody who doesn't have a fresh perspective. The other kaiju nerd of ANP, Lucas. Say hi, Lucas. How are you doing, my friend?
That's right. My perspective, it ain't fresh. It's stinky. It's smelly. Hi, everyone. It's me again. I bet you didn't expect to see me here.
No, nobody ever expects to see. Everyone thinks you're mad at me, remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot that's on Laura. Oh yeah. Yeah, so we just got over another fight. It was off camera. We handled it like adults.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually handled it like adults.
Yeah.
It's what we do. Wow. Okay, so Jim, I know you're kind of like the odd man. I'm just going to say it right now. If I seem a little bit flustered, it's because I am. Like, I was racing to get this stream up and going because I was doing my taxes earlier today. And I know exactly what I'm not doing next year in terms of getting my taxes ready and doing all that. But hopefully I got that all straightened out so I can actually focus on this. And I actually do have a bit of a layout. And Jim, I know you just said that you didn't see Godzilla -1. What's wrong with you?
How shall I count the ways? What's the phrase? I don't know. It's too much wrong with me to. How long are we going tonight?
Yeah, well, you're up full screen now. It's all.
Okay.
It's all on
you. Nothing. I am a perfect human being.
Damn.
Okay.
That's what my mom says. So that's all that matters, right?
So
That's good.
Here's what I think really, to me, brings how insanely successful Godzilla -1 has been, both critically and at the box office, is that in my hometown of Jefferson, New Hampshire, we have one lonely theater with 2 screens, and the second screen is just like a 60-inch screen. Like, it's so tiny. It's kind of comical that they tried to fit that in there. They actually caved and played Godzilla -1. I couldn't believe it when I saw that they were advertising Godzilla -1. This lowly movie that was only supposed to play for a week has only just yesterday finally stopped its North American run.
Yeah.
That is insane to me in the best possible way.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot get over the fact that I haven't, and I think I mentioned this to you in chat, Lucas. I have not seen a movie this universally hailed in a long time. Like, everyone is like, this is a good movie.
Yeah. That was my concern. Like going into it was that it was getting so much praise. It's like there's a twist here. There has to be some kind of twist here. I'm used to this at this point with movies. There's some kind of twist. It's not that good, and it ended up actually being damn. It was actually that good.
Well, it was good enough that Doug Walker gave it a glowing review, and he poo-poos all over Godzilla all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what surprised me. Because I think to quote him, he was like, "Oh, it's not going to be." I think his reaction was the same as yours. He was like, "Oh, it's not going to be that good. It's not going to be that good. The hype is going to be too much." No, it was that good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that just comes down to, and again, we've done an entire review kind of chat on this movie, but just the sort of universal nature of it, the idea of survivor's guilt, it's deep without being too deep. It's artsy without being too artsy. It's such a good. It's made by a man that had a very strong vision, has clearly been thinking of this story for a long time, and because of that, it was polished as fuck. And it shows. It shows. And I think it kind of is a giant... I don't know if you, Lucas, would agree with this at all, but I think it's almost like it feels like a giant slap in the face to Hollywood.
I mean, I'm fine with agreeing with that, just because I'm fine with thinking that, because yeah, I mean, like, look at it, like, it looked visually great. It got nominated for an actual visual award, and its budget is significantly less than like these big budget,
significantly less
slop movies we get now. And I'm just like, this is kind of embarrassing on our end.
I mean, the number that has been floating around for a while, Takashi Yamazaki, the director, has confirmed is actually not true. $15 million was the number that was floating around. He said he wish he had $15 million.
Oh.
So he had less money than that. I think the budget for this movie was probably around the same as Shin Godzilla. If it was a little bit more or a little bit less, it wasn't by much. The Japanese are very conservative with how much money they spend on their movies. But at the same time, I think that conservatism helps the movie significantly because it really forces you to be creative with how you show the monster, where you show the monster, how much you show the monster, and how you compose said monster. And I think both that and Shin Godzilla do it in droves, because I know there's something that, like you mentioned, and again, the fact that this got nominated for an Academy Award, I think it's just wow. That's groundbreaking.
Well, even too, I still strongly believe that I told this to you like privately in chat, but like a big key factor to it getting that nomination is the praise it got, in my opinion. I strongly think that, like,
it's
had
the
like,
underdog.
Yeah, if it had like a normal amount of praise, like, it was good, they wouldn't have considered it. It's the universal love and praise this movie got, to me, is what managed to help it land that nom for best visual effects. Honestly.
And it's also, I think it also says a lot just because of the praise and everything that this movie got. It is now the third most successful foreign languaged film ever released in the United States. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. That's huge. It's like the king has finally reclaimed his throne, because everybody kind of forgets that, like, before Hayao Miyazaki, it was Godzilla that was making all the money. Yeah. Godzilla was Japan's most successful export. All those kaiju movies and stuff like that, those are the most successful. Ishiro Honda was the most successful Japanese director financially. Japan had seen. He blew Akira Kurosawa way out of the water in terms of the amount of revenue that his movies were making, and a lot of people like to forget about that. So it's so interesting to see that, because even Shin Godzilla was successful over here, right? Shin Godzilla got a significant amount of praise and stuff like that as well over here, but it seemed to fall more onto the niche of the kaiju fans and stuff like that. But it still made a decent chunk of change. I wasn't expecting to see Godzilla -1 blow up the way it did.
No.
At all. Like I raced to go see it opening night, because I knew that if I didn't see it opening night, I probably wasn't going to be able to see it until it was released on Blu-ray. Little did I know, they were going to extend it, not another week, not another month, but how long has it been? It's been about 3 months.
Yeah, it was December 3rd was the official release of it.
Oh, okay. It was December 3rd. No, it was November 27th, wasn't it?
Oh,
When it was
27th was the
pre-screening?
early one, and then the 2nd or the 3rd was the actual release date.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I actually looked up because I was curious, like, because it just got announced that it was the 3rd highest grossing foreign film of all time, and that's behind number 1 is still Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I figured
then
it would be.
Life is Beautiful, which I truthfully I'm not sure which movie this is, but I'll be like fully transparent here. But it was a 1997 film. Okay. But yeah, those are the 2 that are ahead of it. It's number 3 though. Like,
Yeah,
that's being out like Parasite
that's
too,
huge.
which was only a few years ago.
Parasite was very successful over here. That was another one of those movies that kind of just snuck in, and I think that also says a lot about Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I think that says a lot about just the total burnout that we're getting, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like almost every Marvel movie and DC movie that has come out this year, or I'm sorry, in 2023, was a bomb.
Oh, dude, yeah,
it just wasn't working.
I've been joking with my friends all year about, like, towards the end of the year, we've been like going ham about joking about it, because it's actually like laughable how bad they've been. Like, the only one that, if I remember correctly, did decently well, and I'm not counting Across the Spider-Verse for this because that's excluded from that because that's kind of its own thing. It was Guardians 3 was the only one that did kind of significantly well.
And
everything else was just
that's
like
a movie
not
that
good.
has a very distinct vision too.
Yeah, totally.
You know. And I think that has something to do with it. I think one, we're genuinely seeing, I want to say genre fatigue, but I mean more like franchise fatigue.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think we're just seeing that. I think people are just sick of all the crazy visuals and the crazy spectacles. Like I didn't think Barbie was going to be as big of a hit as it wound up being.
Yeah.
I feel like it did better than Oppenheimer, surprisingly.
It did do better than Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed, what I'm saying is, like, I enjoyed Barbie more than I enjoyed Oppenheimer, which totally threw me for a loop. I would agree that it's franchise, not necessarily the genre that's overdone. I actually finally have something to say.
Yeah.
Yay.
I think it's just like you said, like Marvel, because like when I watch The Boys and then Gen V and Peacemaker, like those are different. They're different franchises, different superheroes, or actually anti-heroes. But like I'm not done with superhero movies. I'm done with Marvel playing it safe.
Yeah.
These other shows are being risk takers and Marvel's just being safe, and it's clear that no longer works.
Yeah.
You do bring up a very good point about taking risks. And it almost seems like all these big franchises were kind of afraid to do that after the debacle of, what was it, The Last Jedi? Star Wars The Last Jedi? Because that was very much so a one-man's vision. You know, he wrote it, he directed it, you know, and everything, and that kind of fell flat on its face. And I think a lot of these studios were like, no, it proves that going middle of the road is the way. But you can only do that for so long before you literally... it feels like you're having artificial intelligence making your movie, where it's like a director doesn't matter. And I think the worst case of that I saw was Taika Waititi on the new Thor movie, where he didn't even know what his movie looked like.
Oh my god.
And he talked about it plainly in interviews, how he would watch a trailer and he's like, oh, that's how it looks. And I'm like, this guy, I'm like, that just soured me so bad to that whole notion. And then you've got a movie like Shin Godzilla. I mean, Shin Godzilla had such a unique vision behind it, but they stuck with the vision.
Yeah.
And this movie, I mean, you know, just the decision to make it take place in 1947 and all that jazz, and it just added something new to the genre, and what an interesting take. Like this is a movie, I think of one of only 2 Godzilla movies I can think of, or 3, where if you take Godzilla out of the movie, you have a solid drama of what's happening in post-war Japan. The other 2 Godzilla movies, by the way, where I think if you take the Godzilla out of it, you still got a good movie, is Godzilla versus the Sea Monster.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew it was coming.
And Godzilla versus Monster Zero. with the aliens, because you just have an alien invasion plot there and not have the kaijus in it, I think it would still be a really fun movie.
Yeah.
But radically different to fucking Godzilla -1. But I'm just so shocked at how well it's done. It seems like everybody is hailing this movie to the point that it's surpassed the original. Like the original one, ever since it got released over here in what was it, 2004, I think, for the 50th anniversary, that was when it started getting that's when it started getting like hailed and not just talked about as being a cheap giant monster movie. Suddenly people looked at it and was like, no, this is an actual deep movie. But there are so many people out there that say Godzilla -1 is the best Godzilla movie, and normally I would say you're overhyping it. You're like me with Godzilla 2014, where you watch the movie and like, I just saw the big G on the big screen, and it sort of overwhelms you and throw logic out the window. And I'm like, yeah, watch it a few more times and you won't like it as much. No. Japanese do it right.
Yeah.
They just do it right. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the meat and cream of this live stream, I want to mention this, is the Godzilla -1 color.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm curious if they actually called the movie that.
I think if you went to buy a ticket, it was called that, but like I don't think the title card was different or anything.
Yeah, I'm like, that's such a ridiculous title.
I kind of like it though. I like shit like that. So like,
I love the trailer. Godzilla -1 color. Like, oh god. But I've also heard a lot of people go and see Godzilla -1 color and say it is their favorite version of the movie, and that the black and white complements the nature of the film, which I see. I do. I get it. But to me, this new trend of making your movie, re-releasing your movie in black and white, I don't know if I like that or not.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts on that is. Jim, while you may not be able to talk about Godzilla -1, you might be able to talk about it because other movies have been doing this. What was it? Mad Max Fury
Mad Max
Road
did it. Logan did it.
Logan did it. Yeah.
Those are the two I know of.
If it makes sense in the time zone, like I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think of when I think of something like this is there was like a Japanese samurai game that came out a year or two ago, and it had both.
It wasn't Shogun?
I was going to say Sekiro, but it's not Sekiro.
Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of
Tsushima. Yep.
That had a black and white mode and a color mode, but it made sense because it was a akin to,
I want to say it was called
movies.
Kurosawa mode.
It was called Kurosawa mode.
Yeah.
I do know that.
So like that, it to me, I didn't see -1, but like if it takes place in 1947 and they have a black and white mode, okay, then it's more like, oh, it's a found film. I know it's not a found film, but like it's more like this was filmed in 1947, so it would be black and white. I'm fine with that. Mad Max being black and white, I think that's stupid.
Yeah,
especially with how colorful it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And the key
the
is
identity of Mad Max is like it's this orange overhue.
Yeah.
Apparently with Mad Max, he originally wanted it to be in black and white. I don't really believe that. I believe he was just kind of coming up with that out of his ass to justify the idea. Oh, it looks kind of cool in black and white, which it does.
Yeah.
The same with this. I didn't get to go see Godzilla -1 color in theaters, but I did see a lot of the clips that were coming out, and it looked really cool. Mm-hmm. And Yamazaki has stated that he did put a lot of thought into the coloring of the black and white version, if that makes any sense, and trying to make it look as monochromatic as you possibly can. Because if you shoot something in color and then make it in black and white, you can tell it's too gray. Almost like it's not monochromatic. And my issue with this whole thing and this whole gimmick, and why I do say it's a gimmick, it's almost the inverse of, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I think it was in the 90s and early 2000s, it suddenly became very popular to colorize black and white films.
Yes, I
Yes.
do remember that a little bit.
Yeah. Like King Kong got a colorized version. Frankenstein did. There's a lot of movies.
Wizard of
Creature from the
Oz.
Black Lagoon did. And it just felt like a gimmick.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of feel that this is. And one of the reasons why I kind of will sit there with Godzilla -1 in particular and kind of sit there and kind of scratch my head at it is because he had no intentions of putting this movie in black and white. It was lit to be in color. It was shot to be in color. It was edited and presented to be in color. It was meant to be in color. Yeah. It's almost like putting like some of the old Godzilla movies from the 60s, those really vibrant, colorful movies, and suddenly saying that, hey, they're in black and white now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really like that. And what really solidified it for me was one of the scenes that got released online was Godzilla's atomic breath sequence in the black and white version. And I couldn't really tell what was his spikes lighting up and what were the waves, the white caps of the waves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why it doesn't work in black and white for me, is because in the color version, you immediately see that vibrant blue.
Yeah, the contrast.
And yet the contrast is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go, you can't really distinguish it. Does it still look pretty overall? Yeah, absolutely, but
that's kind of what I thought too about it, where it was just like I when I heard this was a thing, like I didn't get around to seeing it too. I was too busy when I came out here to go see it. And I had friends who saw it who said they liked it. One of them was someone who also thought it was like the better version of the movie. I don't think personally I would think that, just seeing that initial movie, and I feel like you said, the contrast alone of how bright that blue is in that scene specifically is honestly really striking. So I think that would take away from it. But at the very least, I do agree, making like a movie black and white for the sake of it feels like a gimmick. I did hear at the very least there was additional care taken into consideration with this. Like there's additional grain added. Yeah, there's grain added onto it. It's not just like slapping on like desaturating and calling it a day. So there was more added to it, and I appreciate that. But I also think I would still personally prefer it in color.
And I heard somebody was kind of bitching at me for having this opinion, because he's like, well, in the original Godzilla, it was black and white, and it wasn't a vibrant color. And I said, well, I think the difference between that and like the original movie is, one, it was shot in monochromatic film, so it was going to be black and white no matter what you did.
Yeah.
But two, whenever Godzilla used his atomic breath, the filmmakers made the smart decision of have it contrasted with a dark background. Like even in the opening scene where you see the waters light up, the waters are dark. And it really shows how blinding that flash of light is. And then when you see him use his atomic breath in Tokyo during the big attack sequence, it's contrasted against a black background. And it's really vibrant and in your face and kind of horrifying as a result. And that isn't here in Godzilla -1 black and white.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I don't know if this is official or not, but, and maybe you would know this, Lucas, but apparently they did a black and white version of Shin Godzilla too.
They did? I had no.
I swore I saw a trailer for that. It could have been fake. It could have been fake.
That would not work for me at all.
No, it wouldn't, because I'm like, I love purple Godzilla in that film. Yeah. The scene where he really uses his atomic breath for the first time and how vibrant that scene is. And again, done perfectly against a dark backdrop. And makes him look like the goddamn devil, like hell incarnate.
How he initially starts, it's like just a burst of fire coming out of his mouth that slowly thins out into that purple.
Oh, so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
God, I love both of these movies, by the way. Like Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is just more in line with the shit that I like. But
I still don't know.
I also like the existential dread that is Shin Godzilla, that it's like an H.P. Lovecraftian monster. Like these guys are like, oh, we can't stop it. But it's just very interesting. in the very least, it's one of those cases where I go, at least it's getting people to watch it. Like, I swear, the Japanese Godzilla has not really had a successful run here in the United States. I want to say since the 70s with Godzilla versus Megalon. Because Godzilla 1985, the one with Raymond Burr, that was a bomb. It did not make its money back here in the United States. Godzilla 2000 did not make its money back here in the United States. And that's why all the other Heisei and Millennium movies were released on just straight to VHS or straight to TV.
Yeah, to DVD and all that.
That's
how I
Godzilla...
found some of it too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'll just go to the store.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, there's a new one. Like,
yeah, that's 100%. Or it'd be on Sci-Fi Channel. I remember that happening a lot. Like, I remember when GMK first came out. Like, it had like a premiere on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's like, it's a new Godzilla movie. What?
That's cool.
Though I will always remember Godzilla Final Wars. when they announced that, I was like,
it's funny you say that. We in my household, like, that one, when that was announced with a release date, that was like one of the few ones we actually got it like the day it came out and brought it home.
It was pretty close for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Ironically, that's a movie that I did not like as a kid, and as I grew older, you'd think it'd be the opposite. As I grew older, I stopped liking it as much. But no, as I grew older, I was like, no, this movie's amazing.
This movie rules.
So, okay. I do kind of feel like a hypocrite here for kind of bashing Godzilla -1 color, because I want to bring up an example where it totally counters and throws shit in my face. The Mist.
Oh, I forgot that one had one too, Rhea.
Because Frank Darabont, from the beginning, wanted that movie to be in black and white. He wanted, from the beginning, he drew storyboards, he approached it as if it was going to be a black and white movie. But the studio, the money people, said, no, it needs to be in color. So at the last second, they switched it to color. That is one of the few times where I can sit back and say, the black and white version's amazing. Like, it's so much better than the color version. A lot of people do. I think The Mist is such an underrated and overlooked movie.
It's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good creepy movie with one of the saddest endings.
Oh no. Yeah, it's absolute.
Oh my god. Yeah, but that's an example of it just flying in my face, and I'm pretty sure I would like Logan too.
It's funny. I finally got like a Blu-ray that has the black and white cut of it, and I still haven't watched it.
Yeah.
I liked Logan too. Like Logan,
I know the Mist. The black and white version is on the regular Blu-ray. Like, you can kind of choose which version you want to watch.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Logan. I just never had it until very recently.
Because to me, the black and white might fit the tone of Logan if only they had shot it in black and white.
Yeah.
That kind of deal. Do I have anything else to say about Godzilla -1? Poor Jim is just sitting here.
Hi, Jim.
All sad that he didn't get to watch the best movie of 2023.
I watched Echo instead. I hate myself.
I was trying to think of another movie to say, but I honestly couldn't think of something.
Echo's not a movie, but it's still bad.
I know.
What is it?
It was like this.
It was Disney Plus's first TVMA show, and it is supposed to be like a introduction into Daredevil coming back. So it's about Wilson Fisk and his like stepdaughter, and it's probably the worst thing Disney has ever made. About like the most badass villain, like down to earth badass villain. And he's only in it for about maybe 10 minutes. It's like watching Godzilla.
Oh, no.
It's like watching Godzilla. Godzilla's only in it for like 10 minutes.
It's gone full circle.
He's not wrong.
The problem with the show, Adam, and you would watch one episode and be like, never again.
Okay.
It's a deaf amputee female is the main character.
Oh no.
And the entire show is sign language. The entire
sign language.
show, all 8 hours or 6 hours, is all sign language. There's maybe 20 minutes of dialogue throughout the whole
I could
freaking
barely
thing.
I could barely tolerate an entire episode of Dahmer being in. Do you remember that show Dahmer that came out that was like so controversial for like 2 weeks on Netflix?
Oh, yeah.
I watched it, and there's an episode where there's a gay black guy who did exist. He got murdered by Dahmer, but he was deaf, and so the entire episode is nothing but sign language and once in a while weird grunting noises. And it drove me nuts. I couldn't think of an entire show being like that.
It was awful.
I wonder
And,
if is it SJW? Is it SJW trash? Like,
No.
did you guys hear about that new director that was coming to Disney, who she said her
Yes.
entire purpose in life is just to make men uncomfortable? So basically, most of her audience.
I don't follow
That's
any
the
Disney
problem
stuff, so I don't know.
with Echo. Echo, herself, she's a badass, and I'm not saying
Right.
that she's not woke. That's not why the show is bad. The show is bad because it's all sign language, and there's no audio in this video and audio medium. There's hardly any music. There's no sound effects. It's all muted. And if it was the opposite of Daredevil, because Daredevil has that too, where he can tune out everything and just hear heartbeats. If that's how they were doing it and it was only during one or two fight scenes, cool. But the whole show is like that. It's awful.
Now, if I remember correctly, the Daredevil show on Netflix is actually really good.
Yes, and it's canon now. They got all. Wow, I'm taking over your Godzilla show and talking about Marvel. They got all of the main
Go
cast
right
to come
ahead.
back. The guy who played Daredevil, the guy who played Punisher, the guy who played Foggy, the girl that played
Isn't
Kate,
that unfortunate?
Wilson Fisk. They're all coming back in this new show. 18 episodes. But if it's anything like Echo was, which is supposed to be the setup for Daredevil,
It's almost like, what if you got the entire crew of Star Trek TNG back together and just completely wasted them in almost every way, shape, and form? Oh, yeah.
they did do that.
Oh, yeah.
Only the last season had glimpses of good show.
Yeah, it did.
First two
It
seasons
had
were bad.
glimpses of good show, but it was too little too late.
You guys
And
are
it was
talking
too...
I agree.
You're talking
Picard.
Picard, right?
Yeah.
Picard.
I've
was
heard
just
nothing but-
it's another case of, and you know what, I genuinely think this has some merit too with why people are just fucking sick of these movies. Member berries.
Oh yeah. Okay, there's I can go off about that. Is fucking.
Oh, please do,
Ghostbusters.
Lucas.
Ghostbusters. I
Yeah.
can't fucking stand. Look, I can't stand what they've done with Ghostbusters because I love Ghostbusters. That first movie. That's a top movie for me. And at its core, Ghostbusters is a comedy. Everyone needs to fucking remember that. Ghostbusters is a comedy film, and it's a really damn good comedy too. And Ghostbusters 2 is hit or miss. I get it. It's not everyone's thing, but I still think it works for the period it came out in, and also for feeling like a sequel to that first movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the one other thing too, the video game that came out around, I don't remember. I was in middle school or something. Is also
that
really
was in
good.
the PlayStation 2
Xbox
era,
360,
I think.
Xbox 360, PS3.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
great game, and it was written by everyone who worked on
They said
Ghostbusters
that
2.
was unofficially the third movie.
Yeah,
that video
to me
game.
it is the third Ghostbusters, and to me
Correct.
Ghostbusters ends
And
there
it's the
because
finale too.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
end.
Ghostbusters ends there because everything else afterwards has just been so irritating to watch. I know there was the 2016 one everyone hated, and yeah, that movie's not great. To me, I find the two recent ones more egregious, to be honest with you, because
I was
they
gonna
are.
say, the one with Paul Rudd. I didn't see it, but I heard it was better.
I could care less because I was just from when
Dude,
I saw it.
I gotta
was
tell
just
you, sitting in Napoleon and seeing the trailer for the new fucking Ghostbusters movie, and then seeing how ridiculous the subtitle is for that movie,
Oh, the
I'm like,
Frozen
this is
Empire?
a joke. Yeah, I'm like, this is a joke. This
Yeah,
whole thing is a
dude.
joke. I don't want to see this.
it's and that movie does a specific thing that I was just if you guys do this, you lose me. I'm gone. And I don't know, dude, I don't think I won't spoil it if someone wants to watch it because it's a big end movie thing for that. But it's just that whole movie is just oh, we're doing Stay Puff again, cool, okay. Oh, we're doing Slimer again, but it's not Slimer. It's a different one that just eats food a lot. Okay, all right.
Let's have some original ideas.
How about
No, original ideas don't exist, and that's one reason why Godzilla -1 is so good, is because they actually took what was
Yeah.
supposed to be a very generic idea. I mean, how many times can you tell a story about a giant monster walking up on shore and guess what, we got to stop him? You know? Like, fundamentally, every Godzilla movie's the same.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
but
still
isn't it? It's all about the characters and their
Yes.
story. It's not
Yeah,
about
it's
Godzilla.
Characters,
different.
execution. Like, you look at Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1, they are almost the same movie. If you really get down to brass tacks, they are almost the same movie, told in two completely, fundamentally different ways, and they work because of it. And it's like, you know, it's. And some people, I think, the direct comparison of Godzilla -1 to the original 1954 film, and some people will argue, and I say justifiably too, that the characters of Godzilla -1 are better than the characters in Godzilla, the original Godzilla, the 1954 one. And while I don't completely agree with that, I do kind of on a fundamental level, like if you really like analyze it, yeah, the characters in Godzilla -1 are actually a little bit more in depth than most of the characters in the original Godzilla, but I'm like, they're still very different because the original Godzilla isn't so much about these characters. There are multiple main characters in this film. There's multiple. You have Ogata, Yamane, and Emiko. A trio. In typical Ishiro Honda fashion, you have three main characters. And on top of that, it's not so much about them, it's about the existential dread of the fact that we created something from our own hubris, aka the atomic bomb, and the only way we can stop this thing is by making something worse than the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And that's the movie. That's the existential dread of the whole thing. That, and, you know, the idea of it being post-war Japan too, which of course -1 does in droves. While -1 there is very clearly a main character. There is very clearly a focus and emphasis on said main character more than the scenario itself, much to its benefit, and that's why it works. And it's a different take. It's an original take. It's almost like Takashi Yamazaki took all of the criticisms of the Monsterverse and said, "Hold my beer." Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to actually address some of these comments because I see a couple of them about
Adam, I'm glad you said that because yeah, I'm sorry, I did not like Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
Sue me.
I didn't see it. I was gonna go see it until I saw Red Letter Media's review of it, and they said basically the same thing that you did, Luke.
I love the thumbnail for that video for some reason. It just kind of kills me. It has the weird blue ghost guy on it. I'm just like, oh.
I still think the Mr. Plinkett review for Ghostbusters 2016 is one of the greatest movie reviews of all time.
Okay.
I'm okay. I'm okay, I swear.
Don't die. Don't die. We still have a show to do.
Let's read some of these comments. One thing I have to bring up is the passing of Kenshi. Oh my fucking god, I forgot about it.
That did happen.
How can I forget about the passing of Ken Shapiro Satsuma? Jim, it's such a sad day, right? You know who Ken Shapiro, or Ben Shapiro Satsuma.
No, don't
Ben
compare
Shapiro
him. Don't compare.
Satsuma? I have no idea who this person is. I'm sorry.
Nah, he played, that was actually kind of sad because I didn't realize how old he was.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though, because remember, he played Gigan and Hedorah in the Showa era. So I'm like, oh yeah, I guess he was a bit older, but he played. It is very sad to sort of go back to that just for a little bit, just because. I look at it this way, and again, this is another sort of hotted, contested thing within the Godzilla community, as all things are. Everyone thinks that Haruo Nakajima is the end-all be-all Godzilla. To me, he isn't. To me, what makes Haruo Nakajima so special and so great, because he was the first Godzilla, he's what laid the seeds to greatness. He's the one that sort of paved the road to Godzilla that we know, to the Godzilla that we love, and the character of Godzilla that we love. To me, Ken Satsuma perfected Godzilla with the Heisei series. To me, and I don't know about you, Lucas, but to me, the 90s era Godzilla films, they are my Godzilla. Those are my Godzilla movies.
For me, I've always leaned more towards Showa, just because that's what I had on like tape a good majority of my life.
Mhm.
That's what I watched the most
Makes sense.
as a kid.
Yeah.
I did have some of the 90s stuff. I did have a few of those, especially like Godzilla vs. Destroyer. I watched a ton. I watched that one a ton.
Yeah.
But-
Fucking Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah rocked my world because it had
Yeah.
World War II in it, and I'm like, I love.
But I definitely lean more towards Showa because a lot of what I rewatched as a kid was the Showa stuff.
Yeah,
and I like that. I like that stuff too.
That's kind of what I say. I always sort of say this. To me, if I rewatch the Showa era more than anything else, because to me those are the most rewatchable movies. But there's something about the Heisei era that I just like. That's to me Godzilla at his peak. Is the 90s era films in terms of story, structure, and all that stuff.
I actually do think like the Heisei era design for Godzilla is one of the designs that I feel like if someone thinks of Godzilla off the top of their head, that is one of the designs if not the main design that will come to head. Might change now because -1 has been in everyone's brains for a while now.
Well, actually, I think the design that most people think of now is 2014 or the MonsterVerse design.
That's fair too. I'm sorry.
I think that's the one that most people think of now.
Before the MonsterVerse stuff happened, though, I do still feel that the Heisei era design, that design, and also the Final Wars designs were like the two that I feel like would come to people's mind.
The Final Wars one was quite popular for a long time.
And I like it. I wish the ears weren't as pointy on that design, but like it's not a big deal. Still a good design.
I think he looks like a mixture of a rat and a cat.
Hell yeah.
But it was sad to see him die because, I mean, I think that's one of the benefits of Suitmation. I really do. And what I think in a lot of stop motion enthusiasts will say, Adam, how dare you? But and I love stop motion, to be clear. I really do. I love stop motion. King Kong 33 is my favorite movie of all time, you guys. I mean, I love stop motion animation. But to me, why Suitmation will always be my favorite form of special visual effect is just because you have if you play it right, it doesn't matter how bad or how good the suit is. If you have an actor underneath that suit, you're going to get a performance out of that suit. And I think that goes a long way of adding believability or relatability to these monsters. And I think one reason why the kaiju genre has really stood the test of time and why they're still popular to this day and why people still watch the 60s era's movies is because they have so much personality. They have so much life and love and awesomeness in them, for good and for bad.
I agree with you.
You know, and I think it's also one reason why the MonsterVerse goes the way that it does, is it definitely is going hardcore Showa. Definitely hardcore Showa.
But was the running shot not enough for you to think that?
Somebody asked me, is like, Adam, why don't you like that? Like, why you love Godzilla versus Megalon? Why don't you like it in this movie? And you want to know what my answer to that was? I was like, when I really sat down and think about it, I'm like, I think it's because it's hyper realistic, quote unquote. Hyper realistic CGI. If it was literally two men in rubber lizard suits running towards the camera, I think I would genuinely like this a lot more.
It's the medium. It's the medium that makes it feel not as fun or special. Because then you start thinking like there's a sense of like disbelief you have going into a movie in general, but especially if you're going into like a Showa or a Godzilla movie where it's like you see them like doing borderline karate moves that it's like it's Suitmation, so it's like, you know what, you can get around it. But then it's like, this is just CG. We've seen CG over and over.
It's just hyper realistic CGI. And I'm like, it just doesn't top Godzilla and Jet Jaguar shaking hands after the end of a big battle. Or Anguirus bad mouthing Godzilla in Godzilla versus Gigan while they're trying to do stuff, or even in Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster, where the fairies have to translate the conversation that Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla are having, and it has one of my favorite lines in cinema history in it, where suddenly you see Godzilla kind of like grunt to himself, and one of the fairies goes, "Oh, Godzilla, what foul language!"
Yeah, Bro is swearing.
And I'm like, hell yeah, they're shit talking each other, man. And I'm like, this is shit that I love. And there's something about that that's totally missing with just the CGI. I don't know. I think it's just that total level of disbelief. And also, admittedly, I think there's something to say. Like, I recently rewatched Destroy All Monsters. The 4K restoration of Destroy All Monsters, which is gorgeous. There's something about the craftsmanship of the whole thing, too, that makes me go, this is awesome. Like the fact that, oh, yeah, that is a real explosion going off right underneath Haruo Nakajima's feet. Yeah. Or the fact that, like Ghidra has, 12 wires, and each wire is being pulled by a guy up on the rafters. And all these miniatures were almost all handmade for this. And there's something about that I think David Callett put it best. He's a film historian that I greatly admire. He put it best, and he says, no, what makes these movies good is not that you're reveling in the fact that this looks real. It's that knowing it isn't. And I was like, I think that's a very good approach to these movies, because I don't know if you watched King Kong Escapes, but that is one of the worst gorilla costumes I've ever seen, but it's still a fun movie. I love it. Well, Jim, I think we gotta address some of these comments. Jesus Christ, Adam, shut the fuck up. Adam needs to shut the fuck up. Adam needs to shut the fuck up. Poor Jim is just sitting here waiting for us to get to something that he can actually talk about.
I'm having a great time. I'm hanging out.
Jim's just there. Jim. Hi, Jim. How you doing, Jim?
Hi, Jim.
I got nothing. I have no idea what you've been talking about for the past 20 minutes.
It's like total gibberish.
I've been.
Adam, if you started speaking straight up Klingon right now, I would probably get more of the gist.
You'd probably understand more of it.
We could make up our own Godzilla movie, and Jim wouldn't know if it's real or not.
No, we totally could. We totally could just make up an entire Godzilla. You could have just
been making up movie names.
Yeah.
And then I was seeing Godzilla versus Megalon 2023. I didn't know that was a thing. Is that real?
That was like a side. I don't know if it was like, it wasn't official. Or maybe it was like one of the fan films they did last year.
Oh yes, it was one of because Godzilla versus Megalon had just turned a big 50.
Too.
Fuck yeah, the Meg 2.
No, we were not.
Trench baby. Sorry,
not you. This guy commenting, Mr. Justin Tang. I thought you were talking about Meg 2, and I'm like, I got something to say. I saw that. I could talk about that. Nope, it's another Godzilla.
We'll have a dedicated Meg stream where we
talk
about the Meg,
just
the Meg
you,
and the
Jim.
Meg 2, the Trench.
I got stuff to say about that.
That's why we should.
I haven't seen it, so I could be the noob for this one, going into it blind, totally invert
I saw the Meg 2 instead of freaking Godzilla -1.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with this. Let's do it. Let's do this.
Awful movie.
Jim, don't spoil it.
Well, here's a hot take.
Oh, God.
I kind of like the first one.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Jim, I was just praising Godzilla vs. Megalon, which is widely considered one of the worst movies ever made. Ever made. So, okay. Let me get to some of these comments. God fucking damn it. Re-releasing movies in a year or less after they originally got released in general is questionable to me. Well, with streaming services, I would actually kind of agree with you. And I think that's one reason why I think movies are dying, if I'm being honest.
Well, -1 -color was weird too, because the -1 run was still going on as they did that.
Yes.
It's weird. I don't know.
Yes, it was. So you kind of got to pick and choose which one you want to go wanted
cool.
to go to.
Kind of cool though.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. He also played Paul Gasari in the North Korean film. Oh yeah, Ken Satsuma played Paul Gasari. Do you know about Paul Gasari, Lucas? You don't know about Paul Gasari?
I don't. I'm sorry. Wait, that name is familiar.
That's the pig monster, or the cow-looking monster.
Making stuff up now.
Okay,
I swear.
I've seen pictures of it. I have not seen it. I've not seen like the movie.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But the thing with that movie, that's another case of a movie where the making of the movie is far more interesting than the movie itself, because the lead actress was kidnapped from South Korea to be in it, and so is the director.
Yeah.
And they used it as a vehicle to defect, to get out of there. And I'm like, this is way more. This should be a movie. Like, fuck Argo.
It's funny you say Argyle, Adam. It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
I actually saw that yesterday.
I did not say Argyle. I said Argo, which was that movie from 2008. But Argyle, you did see Argyle, because to me Argyle looked fun.
It looked fun. I kind of went on more of an ironic watch with friends.
Oh, okay.
I am here to report it's not that good.
Oh, really? I was like I was looking at that. I was like, what a fucking great ensemble cast.
To sum it up, it really is a case where it's like you really needed to dive into this being silly and being a parody of spy movies, and they very little do that.
It needed to be more like It needed to be kind of more like Kingsman.
I guess I haven't seen Kingsman. I don't know.
Jim, have you seen Kingsman?
Oh shit!
I really like the first one. I haven't seen any of the other
Kingsman.
ones.
Yeah,
and Kingsman too.
But
I like the prequel movie with all the historical figures that just get dropped in it left and right.
Didn't
and
see
like
that one.
Yeah, nobody did, Jim. Nobody did.
It's kind of now dawning on me. You said Argo, and I really genuinely thought you were talking about Argyle. It's kind of really just hitting me now.
Well, they sound similar.
They do, but like,
they do sound
why
similar.
would you talk? Why would you talk about Argyle right now?
why would you do this? Why the fuck would you? Why?
Oh,
why?
I can shoehorn the thing I just saw the other day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's not great.
Anyways, I think it would have been cool if Godzilla -1 was originally black and white, with the exception of the last 5 to 10 minutes, where they transition to color immediately after they see the parachute. So they're going to Wizard of Oz it.
Hi, Joe.
Inverse Wizard of Oz, I should say. Never mind.
Yeah, inverse.
That's not a terrible idea. It would have been interesting. I think if they did that, it wouldn't have gotten the praise it did, though.
Yeah.
Because Lucas, you mentioned something. I think you mentioned something before that I think that's kind of interesting. It kind of would fit into this, at least a little bit. You don't like changing aspect ratios because you like consistency, if I remember correctly.
Yes. It's more so when it's egregious and like you can really tell that it changed aspect ratios. If it's super subtle and I don't notice, then yeah, you get away with it. But like if it's like you're changing from like and you're noticing the bars, that's where it kind of gets to me. But like sometimes I get so invested I don't notice it for some things. But yeah.
But I remember mentioning to you that Tron Legacy changes aspect ratios, and it's like you never noticed that before.
That fucked me up.
Yeah,
because I love that movie.
I
really
fucking Tron Legacy. Let me guess, that's another movie that Jim has absolutely no idea what it is.
No, damn. It's getting
Jim,
a 4K. It's
Jim,
getting a 4K
you have
release.
got to see Tron Legacy, even if you know nothing about Tron.
The entire soundtrack is done by Daft Punk.
It's a movie to Daft Punk score.
It's good too.
I literally, I think
what Tron is.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's better than
Legacy.
I'll say this. I'll say I saw Tron Legacy before I saw the original Tron. I enjoy both of them immensely.
Yeah, me too.
I've only seen the original one.
The original one I find more fascinating from a filmmaking standpoint than I do on a movie standpoint.
I agree with you.
But if only the original Tron had a soundtrack like Daft Punk, or like if only somebody like John Carpenter did the soundtrack to fucking the original Tron, I think it would have been a better movie.
Now, with that being said, I have no hope in this Neutron movie that's coming out. I have zero.
I didn't know
I
there was a
have-
new one coming out.
Yeah, I didn't really know
I think
it either.
Jared Leto's the star in it.
Oh,
Take that however you may.
Ooh, has he made a movie that hasn't flopped in the past decade?
He
No.
was good. He was good in Blade Runner 2049, but that's also because everyone else
oh my
was
god,
really
I forgot
good.
he was in
Yeah,
that.
he was in it. He was in that movie.
Yeah, I forgot he was in that. Talk about a movie that's
every-
fucking gorgeous with color, and that somebody
That movie is great. That
Yeah.
movie's awesome.
somebody did a fan edit where it was in black and white, and it just didn't work as good. It just didn't work.
I think the first one could.
I think the tone fits more with the first
Yeah,
one.
for
I
the
think
first
you're right
one,
there. Yeah, because
It's also
the
like,
first
especially
one,
the final. There's a lot of deep blacks in the final fight too.
Yeah.
I think that could work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is also so hardcore neo noir, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
noir.
yeah, that's true, too.
Noir is built for black and white. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's see. Godzilla versus King Ghidorah and -1 are currently the only two G films which have scenes taking place before 1954. You know, I never thought of it before, Justin, but you are 100% correct. You are 100% correct, and I love both of them. Despite Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah having plot holes galore, what's good in that movie is so good I don't care. Let's see. Yeah, Paul Gasari is basically a beat-for-beat retelling of Daimajin. It's a Korean Daimajin, yeah.
Got it.
Oh, totally off topic, and this is only for the people who are currently watching, so I apologize to you, Lucas and Jim, really quick, but I finally saw Space Monster 1 Magui, the long-lost Korean kaiju film that got buried because of Yongari Monster from the Deep. I was about halfway through it, and I said, wow, this soundtrack sounds like they just ripped it from Yongari Monster from the Deep, only to find out that it was done by the same composer. So it came out in the same year, same composer. Interesting watch. I should do a video on it. It's an interesting watch. Anyways, I've seen all of the Kingsman films and very much enjoyed all of them. And me and my father and me, actually saw Argyle earlier today, and I still enjoyed it, though it did seem overly long and a bit convoluted. Well, I think it being convoluted is part of the joke.
It was, but like it wasn't like it didn't feel smart. To me.
It wasn't
felt
like South Park where I recently rewatched the post-pandemic specials.
Is that the one
ones
where
where
they're adults?
They're adults. And I'm like, this is so funny. This is so great. And then the Streaming Wars one was also like, why is this so convoluted? It's so good, still. Lucas. It's so good. It's so. I actually liked it. I like the Streaming Wars one better than I liked the post-pandemic special one. I didn't really care for the Creed one or the Cred one, where it was making fun of those social media hounds releasing energy drinks. I didn't really care for that.
I haven't seen a lot of the current ones, to be honest with you.
Watch the specials. You don't have to watch the show, despite the show still being good. Just watch the specials. The specials.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about specifically.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen a lot of them since the post-pandemic one.
Oh, Jesus Christ! We've been talking for an hour. I think
y'all have been talking for an hour.
I think it's about time that we start cluing Jim in on this conversation, because.
And what am I really gonna have to say? Because you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this reminded me of this Godzilla movie.
No,
and this reminded.
No. You'll have plenty to say.
No, Jim. And I'm being completely serious. That's one of my praises of Monarch, is that this isn't a nostalgia trip movie or show. It's almost entirely, completely original shit. And I love it for that.
Okay.
What is Monarch? Legacy of Monsters.
Well, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is the new Legendary Pictures Monsterverse series. 8 episodes. Was it 8 episodes? I think it was 8 episodes.
I think it was 10.
8 or 9.
10. Yeah, okay. That came out on Apple TV Plus, which is the worst goddamn streaming platform to have ever streamed.
I mooched off of my friend's account.
Yeah, I wish I did.
So did I.
Yeah, hell
Yeah.
yeah, Jim. High five.
Hey, guess who was the friend that I mooched off of?
Yeah, fuck you, Jim. Fuck you.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
Well, I gotta tell you, the question that I posed in the title of this live stream is, was Monarch Legacy of Monsters better than it should have been? And I'm going to pose that question to you guys. Because I want to know from the beginning, because I have some notes here. And we'll start with you, Jim, as the guy who doesn't really know anything about Godzilla. Not that you really need to know anything about Godzilla to understand this show and stuff, but it helps. But
I think that's what makes it good, though, is that, like, as somebody who didn't really know what was going on, and I've only seen the Western Godzilla movies and Shin Godzilla, and I've only seen the Western Godzilla movies once when they came out with you. I've never rewatched them. I didn't really feel lost at all for the most part until the ending, and you did have to explain. Are we doing spoilers or no?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, so at the ending, when they're in that hangar and it pulls out and you see the company, it's like, I didn't really know what that was, but you did. And that was the only time that, like, I felt like you had a leg up on me. Like, throughout the whole thing, like, we were talking and watching it at the same time, and we were, like, piecing it all together. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen next, and neither did I, and we were, making guesses. And I just, as a show overall, I thought it was very good for newcomers and people who have watched the movies. There's little nods, but, like, you could watch this without really knowing. They did a good job in the first episode of doing a recap of the movies.
Of 2014, especially.
Well, that's the only one, yeah, because this takes place, like, in between
this
some
takes
of the
place
movies.
it takes place. It does not take place
Like
in the modern day.
2016,
Yeah,
2017,
I think so. Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. Lucas, what did you think of Monarch Legacy of Monsters? Did you think it was better than it should have been?
I think it was the best show ever made, and I give it 2 thumbs up.
Very cool. Very cool.
No, I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good overall, and I think it's also because, like, now I'm talking from the experienced guy here with the Monsterverse stuff too, is that it's very mature compared to It's very in tone with 2014. It's very in tone with that. I don't really think there's, like, a lot of, like, jokes in it, and if there is, they're actual, like, funny. Like they're not, like, forced jokes to appeal to, like, the Marvel audience. They're just kind of there as if people are talking to one another. Who'd have thunk? I still think, like, after with everything said and done, I still thought the show was fine overall. It was a good watch overall. I wasn't, like, blown away with it, but in context with the Monsterverse and, like, the stuff that's come out since, it is a breath of fresh air, and it is very mature, and I did enjoy my time watching.
Western.
Yeah,
it's the best Western Godzilla thing.
In a while, yeah, I can agree with you on that.
I think it was better than 2014, to be honest. That's just me.
Oh, them fighting words.
I don't know if I go that far, but I get where you're coming from, Jim. I do understand.
Again, I haven't seen 2014 since I think Adam and I saw it opening night in 2014. I haven't seen it since then, and definitely everything, the other 3 movies after that, this is leaps and bounds better than.
Yeah. It helps that it's
Also,
a show that we get to kind of.
Also, I told you would get my ASMR, so.
Oh, fuck!
Oh, shit.
We're not hearing anything.
No, that's what I love about this, is we're not hearing a damn thing.
Yeah, we didn't hear a thing.
Did you hear my oh shit?
No.
No, that's the only thing we heard.
That's the only thing, yeah.
We didn't hear the crack. We didn't hear the fizzle. We heard nothing.
We heard nothing, Jim.
Damn,
nothing.
This microphone has what's it called? Noise cancellation built in.
Stop that. Get rid of that bullshit.
Good.
Get rid of that shit.
That's
too good.
Doing.
Well, if we're going to get back on topic here for this is interesting to me because Jim really liked it. Lucas, you thought it was good?
It's good, yeah.
I fucking loved this show.
Hell yeah.
I was so blown away by how much I not only enjoyed the show, but how much I actually gave a shit and how much I wanted to know what was coming next. It was like, I don't know, you were on when we were talking about Godzilla Singular Point, and I said that was one of the big selling points of that show to me was I wanted to know what was coming next. I wanted to know what the mystery, what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was this show. I greatly enjoyed. I will say, my predictions of this show was wildly wrong.
Okay.
I thought, and I'm glad it wasn't the case, I thought Kurt Russell was going to be another Bryan Cranston, where he's only in for like a couple of episodes, and like he only has like a couple of minutes of screen time, and then he's gone.
I would have been disappointed.
Yeah, I think
he's a main. He is the main character, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
He is the main character. Fuck the kids.
Yeah, fuck the kid. Fuck the kids is right. But let's actually fucking look at my notes here, so we can actually. So, what do you think were the strengths of Monarch was? Like, what did you think it does really good? Because I think it does four things really, really well if it really comes down to it. I think the first one it did is I liked its structure. I liked it bouncing back and forth. It was new. It was different for the kaiju genre in particular. It bouncing back and forth between the 50s and I think either 2015 or 2016. The second one that I think it did really good is I love the parallel themes of Legacy. That it's a family thing. It's multiple generations getting involved. There's now multiple generations of monsters that are getting involved, and that Monarch is growing from this, and the legacy of all this. I loved the parallel lines between the plot and the characters very well. Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell steal the show in every way, in every scene that they're in. They are just so good and oozing with charisma, and it sort of makes up for some of the sort of generic plot that's sort of going on in the background and stuff like that. And then the last thing that I think the show that's really good in the strength of this show anyways is its world building. Because one of the biggest complaints that I've had about the MonsterVerse forever is its lack of world building, especially in the face of a movie like Pacific Rim, where Pacific Rim only had one movie and its world was so rich.
Yeah.
Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the level of world building in this show is through the roof. Lucas, you're actually wearing one of the things that I actually really appreciated about it. It's like fucking Godzilla shows up.
With the signs, yeah.
Yeah, like I love this idea that we thought we knew the planet. We thought we knew the world, and then all of a sudden these giant monsters show up and everyone's paranoid as fuck now. The world has changed.
I think it also helps that they chose to make it in between 2014 and where it ends off. Like, it didn't. I had a fear going into this that it was just going to be and this is just the cynical side of me. It was just going to be a promotional piece that leads into Godzilla X Kong, and it really doesn't. It really doesn't at all.
No, in fact, if I remember correctly, I can't. Timeline-wise, this ends after King of the Monsters, but before Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, because
it's 2 years. It's 2 years later from the start. So yeah, I think it's
no. It's over. It's over 2 years. Here, well, I want to say something to that, but I don't want to derail this conversation.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there when we get there.
But I kind of feared that
have to
too.
Turn this RV around.
Yeah. That was the cynical side of me. Always all that.
Yeah, I kind of feared that. Kind of feared that too, and it wasn't at all. I love how this. We kind of talked about this earlier with Godzilla -1. This show had a vision and stuck to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, Jim. I don't know if you kind of thought about this, but I heard a lot of people kind of complaining that like they wish they got some other Toho kaiju in this film or in this series. A part of me thinks that's the strength of the show, is that Godzilla is only in
it's the story.
I think Godzilla's in 3 scenes in the entire show.
It's Godzilla.
He's in a few.
Showing like the age and like you know, how godlike he is that he survived all of this, and he's only in those 3 scenes, but he's in the scenes back in the 40s. He's in the scenes in you know, present day.
Yeah, like, he's the linchpin.
Cool. And there are other kaijus in this too. So like,
well, yeah, they're all MonsterVerse original kaijus because they can't afford to use any Toho kaijus because.
I think that's the downside, to be honest. Like, I don't know any of these kaijus, and that's where it gets really, really confusing because it's like, are they all the same? I don't know. What's this one's weakness? What's this one's strength? Like, where'd you come from? Should I know that monster? I have no idea.
That comes with the territory of giant monsters. Don't ever watch Ultraman.
It's like that first monster that they see at like Antarctica, and I'm like, what is this thing? I don't know what this thing is.
That's like, actually, I don't mean to cut you off, Jim. That's actually my favorite new design they had in this show. I actually really like that one a lot. I love that it looks like a mole.
Design, and then it also like soaks up heat, and it like it was cool to learn it, but like
seeing it freeze that guy too when it was breathing on him, and the fact that they made it look like it was painful too, I was like, ooh, this is good. This is good. Yeah. Like I like this.
That was good. That was good.
I'm not saying that the monster was like bad or anything, but again, coming in with the little information when I first saw that, I was like, am I missing something? I don't know. And then it took me, you know, fortunately I was watching with you and you were like, I don't even know who that is. I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh, okay. I can take a sigh of relief. I'm not missing anything. We're learning together. And so like it was just confusing, I should say.
And that's kind of just a crummy feel because like you shouldn't have to feel like that. Like you shouldn't have to think that you're missing out. Like, oh, this is a reference to something, and I feel like that's just a casualty of just like how.
But it wasn't, which ended up being a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's great.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. The lack of the total lack of references and member berries in this.
Yeah.
In this thing, in anything that is sort of dropped, it's in the background. And it's usually referenced to the MonsterVerse, so it actually works in canon and in universe, which I think is one of the things that I loved about this. There's only one scene in this movie where I remember being like, oh, that's a nice little nod. And that's when Godzilla comes out of the sand. And that's clearly a nod to Mothra versus Godzilla, where in that movie, that's how Godzilla appears. He comes out of the sand. They even do the little shake. That I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I swear to Christ, I think that's the only time in this show where I went, oh, that's a reference.
Adam, honestly, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, that probably was a reference to that. But even in that one, I was like, that didn't even occur to me. Like,
right, I was more in the way how they shot it and presented it too, because instead of focusing on Godzilla, this show does something very interesting and does it in a very not forced way, like in some movies. It's hard to describe. It instead focuses on the scale of these monsters by having the camera continuously be on the human level, which is something that I think 2014 does that none of the other MonsterVerse movies do.
Yeah,
none. Even Kong Skull Island, as much as I love that movie. Godzilla 2014, I think the best thing that comes out of that film is its sense of scale. And it knows it's big. These monsters are huge. Huge. These monsters are the biggest monsters. And
the strongest.
The strongest monsters in the MonsterVerse. I'm telling you. The MonsterVerse is the greatest Godzilla that was ever Godzilla. I mean, they were coming over to go see these movies.
Huge.
But,
it was huge.
But
These monsters are huge.
I will say in Pacific Rim they did try to build a wall to keep out the kaiju and it didn't work. But so here's the you said it a little bit earlier, Lucas. It was a real big can of fresh air that they hardcore, the creators of the show hardcore said, we're going tone-wise 2014.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, thank God. You know, this almost feels like the Star Trek Deep Space Nine of the Monsterverse, because you have all this ridiculous, this like lighthearted shit going on with the movies, and then you have the show that's pretty grounded in everything. And like, I love their approach to Monarch. I love how they made Monarch intimidating, which is what I've always wanted.
I didn't feel that way. I liked him. Tim was very down to the earth.
Oh no, I loved Tim. I loved Tim.
But he's Monarch.
We're talking specifically like the whole organization, not as a whole.
Yeah, but then like, well, I guess.
I think that's the crux of Tim's character, is that he comes around on that.
Yeah.
I think that's what's important.
And then that's why he leaves Monarch at the end.
I think that's what's
the
important.
The French lady clearly saw that before he did. That hey, there's something wrong with Monarch.
Yeah.
Clearly, Kurt Russell's character is right.
Their point wasn't that like Monarch is necessarily bad. That the whole point of them leaving was because Monarch knows about these kaijus and never acts on them. It's almost as if they don't do anything. Even all they do is just try to keep everything a secret, and it's like that's not the point. And then also the whole point, the whole past story is obviously, Kurt Russell's son. Monarch is meant to be a good thing. So like, I guess I get what you're saying, but like, Kurt Russell is trying to make Monarch good. Tim's trying to make Monarch good and do something other than stick their thumb up their butts. And like, I never once thought that they were like the villain. And then the other company at the end, I was like, oh, are they a villain?
Yeah, Apex is the. I'm only saying this because
I didn't want to say Apex. You said we weren't doing spoilers yet, so.
Well, we could go into spoilers now because we're far enough into this. We're past the initial thoughts.
Sorry, gang. It's spoiler time.
So, Apex is the Cerberus of this universe. And I'm only saying that because I'm playing the Mass Effect trilogy. They're the big baddies in the background that are slowly corrupting everyone and everything, which I find fascinating. I do. If only Godzilla vs. Kong got to play with that more. And I want to see Apex grow. If we get a season 2 of Monarch, I would love to... I think it did well
enough that we will.
I hope so, because I would love to see them tackle Apex. What the fuck is going on with Apex?
That would have to be what it is, because like my thing was like, I don't know where they go from here. Like for
the only other thing that I can think of them genuinely doing is going with Charles Dance's character, because their group, that terrorist organization in Godzilla King of the Monsters, as idiotic as it was a splinter group off of Monarch. They are a group that disagreed with what Monarch was doing, and yeah, but it's almost like within this universe, and this is something that I find sort of fascinating, is that this sort of establishes what I think Monarch should have been. It was hinted at, but it sort of went to the wayside with the later Monsterverse movies, and that is Monarch's entire goal is to secure, contain, and protect the kaiju.
I get it. I catch it.
And I'm like, they are like the SCP Foundation. Yeah. And I love that. I fucking love that. That's, I think, one of the biggest strengths of this show is the fact that they do kind of go into it. They do go into Monarch getting their lows. What?
Sorry. I want to add something to your list of 4. Obviously, like Shaw back and forth, I thought was great, and Kurt Russell and his son. One thing that I wanted to add, and I think we both had this fear when we started out, it had a group of young adults, teenagers, early 20-year-olds, and they're going to save the world. Reminded me a lot of, I think, King of the Monsters, where like it was that hodgepodge group, and like they just all of a sudden
that was Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong is the one. Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get that again. And like, sure, they ended up, kind of saving the world, but
They were
other
gonna
than
do
the the
They
one
were gonna
girl,
Stranger Things it.
they didn't have like specials or the key to everything. They were
No.
piecing it all together, and like it made somewhat logical sense how they got from one step to the next step. And it wasn't also, like you said, like forced comedy buddy buddy kind of stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
the main guy and main girl practically hated each other for the whole show.
Well, that their dichotomy is fascinating. I think one of the only redeeming
I
things with
liked
their
it a
characters.
lot.
I did too.
Because quite frankly, I think the three kids are insufferable. I do not enjoy them as characters. I enjoy the idea of their characters more. And I like the idea that their story is unbelievably small scale. Their story is unbelievably like what a teenager story should be. Very personal, very small. But because of who their dad is, they get roped into something much larger than they know.
Than themselves.
Yes. And I do like the fact that this movie isn't apocalyptic in scope. It's very I keep saying movie, the show. I do like that. I do like how kind of small scale it is. In many levels. Also,
I don't remember the character's name. The African American female. I didn't get her at all until I watched the recap before this show.
Yeah, you're talking May.
May.
She like worked for Apex and then moved to Japan to like run away.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's so young. How is she? She's like straight out of college.
She's a genius, Jim.
And I don't like when shows and movies do that. Like, we don't need a prodigy son. Like, it's okay. And like, it's not explained, or at least I didn't pick up on it. I'm not sure if either of you did. That like that's why she was running, and that was the big company she was talking about.
Well, that was the
she
reveal.
worked with them for years.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you work for them for years? You're 21 years old or 22 years old.
Yeah, I admittedly I didn't get it too. It took me into the last episode to finally get O's Apex. Okay, I get it now. I understand now. It all makes sense. It all has come together. It all makes sense, Jim. It all makes sense. It's so dense. There is so much going on in it. Very cool. Very cool. I'm just losing my mind.
Yeah, I actually I hit a point where I was like, I can't tell if you're being ironic now or not.
No.
I couldn't tell.
No.
For a second. Because I mean, like, I pieced together that she was originally part of Apex, and I just like, I guess like from Jim, where you're coming from, of like the believability of that character. I guess I was in a case of just like, I know this is MonsterVerse, so like I can just accept something like that. I really don't have any other reason besides that. I just like kind of accept.
Well, I think it's a very popular trope right now because of Stranger Things. I'm not gonna lie, Stranger Things. Like, remember, there's that new Gamera anime that came out. It's Stranger Things with kaiju.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it either. I'm still kind of determined to do it. But I think it's sort of the popular thing to do, that it's the youngins that are going to come out and they're going to save the day and all that. And I do like the fact that they don't save the day. That they just kind of discover a vital piece of the puzzle so that others can save the day. And I think that's
I like that too.
I think that's a fascinating take. You want to know what that, now that I'm just kind of thinking of it, it reminds me a bit of another Gareth Edwards movie, and that's Star Wars Rogue One. I love the fact that they don't save the day. They find the piece of the puzzle for others to save the day. And I think that's one of the strengths of that movie. But it kind of reminds me of that, or it kind of has that kind of syndrome to it.
But yeah, that's what I was saying a little bit ago, is that like I like that they weren't the only ones that could save the day, unlike Skull Island, where like those three kids were like all doing everything, and it's like, why? How do you know how to do this? What are we doing? Whereas this was, again, a little bit more grounded. Like, they're just these kids that are in a crappy situation way above their head, but they're doing it to figure out what's going on with their dad.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. That's the only reason they're there.
Yeah.
And they make that known throughout the whole show. If my dad wasn't doing this, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, and I also kind of like the fact that the dad is a bit of a scumbag.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, I think if he tried to apologize at the end or anything, like, I agree,
Well,
and like both wives
I'll-
end up kicking him out, which is great.
I'm glad they didn't try. Well, they do kind of try to redeem him, but they do it in a very smart way, where it's like, yeah, I fucked up, but I'm still going to try to do what's right here. It's very human. He's a very human character, believe it or not, without him being too deep. It kind of reminds me of a bit of a more rounded version of Gendo from Evangelion, where it's like he's dedicated. He ends up leaving his daughter after Godzilla attacks San Francisco in 2014. And he's so obsessed with these monsters. He's so obsessed with the kaiju. He's so obsessed with this that he sort of pushes them to the wayside. And the fact that he has two double lives going on right now, two completely different families that I thought they were going to know of each other. There was going to be some twist that like the mother over in America knew of the family over in Japan, and there was going to be sort of a drama there. But no, the fact that they don't know, and that they have to piece this all together, I'm like, that's hard. And that's kind of scummy, and that kind of makes him a dick. But at the same time, it's unbelievably human. And that's what I think I think it's shit like that really sort of, at least for me, made me fall in love with this show. I was like, these characters are shockingly nuanced for a MonsterVerse show. And I think, Justin, you actually are saying something in the comments that I'm going to pull up right here. You say, I like how Kate, despite experiencing the 2014 attack, didn't personally hate or blame Godzilla like Mark Russell did in King of the Monsters, but rather the event to her was like a natural disaster, similar to did you say 311? Is that supposed to be 311? Is that supposed to be... That's a tsunami. That was the tsunami in Japan, was 311. But yeah, I like that. I like that because the writers could have taken the easy way out and just done a typical like, I must get revenge on Godzilla kind of story that I honestly thought they were going to do. And I remember seeing that in one of my speculation videos. And I'm like, he's probably going to be Kurt Russell just trying to get revenge on Godzilla. And no, it's not. It's this shockingly nuanced thing where it's like, oh, he's trying to figure out, oh, hey, he survived going through and out the Middle Earth.
Back.
Maybe we got to get her back. It's no longer about destroying the monsters. It's about maybe preventing them from getting here, but I want to get her back. And I was like, all these twists and turns that go on with the show. I'm like, they put fucking thought into the show. This wasn't a haphazardly thrown together series. They clearly thought this thing out from beginning to end. And I'm like, oh, it's such a can of fresh air for the MonsterVerse.
I would
it's
like
a can of fresh air for media in general, I think.
Well, yeah. A great year for Godzilla. Freaking.
I would like, if you don't mind, to mention a specific scene, because you kind of just brought up the characters that it's relevant to. Because a plot point is that Keiko, it was Kate's great grandmother. Yes, it was just grandmother. Okay, she was stuck
grandmother. It was just grandmother.
It was just grandmother. Okay,
yeah.
She was stuck in Hollowworth for what felt like to her only, because they established in this that
it's like 3 months.
Yeah, time passage in Hollowworth is like 3 months our time or something. And
for like the 60 years, it was her time.
Yeah. And it leads into what is my favorite scene in the show. Actually isn't even like a Godzilla or monster scene. It is the scene where they finally find Keiko and oh wow, I'm blanking on his name. Kurt Russell's character. Is Shaw. Hiding behind Shaw is hiding behind the tree before revealing himself, and I thought that whole scene was great.
I really the emotional powerhouse on that, and I think a lot of that has to do with a couple of things. I think it has to do with the genuine direction of that scene is really good, but also fucking Kurt Russell is a good actor.
Yeah,
he just knows, kind of like Bryan Cranston. He knows how to pull emotion out of a scene. And I love how he doesn't break down and cry, but he is clearly feeling every emotion under the sun. He's happy to see her. He's sad that he's so much older than her now. It's genius. It's fucking genius. And
I mean, it's also too having to give her the news.
Yeah,
the news of how long
everyone she knows is dead.
Yeah, like the world she knew is
her husband's dead.
Yeah, like the world she knew is gone. Yeah. Oh yeah, him telling her that he died. What's his name? Bill Rando. He died. And I'm like, that's tough, and I love her reaction to it as well. Yeah. It's like the most nuanced meltdown I've seen on screen for a while. It's like, and it's perfectly relatable. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I get it. Even though
when they just hold each other's faces, that was
It's
even though I'm gonna choose, and forgive me if they explain this or not. I'm going to choose to forget the giant fucking plot hole with the time skip thing, because they go to the Hollow Earth in Godzilla vs. Kong, and
when
I was watching my recap, apparently this is not Hollow Earth. This is potentially like a subsidiary in between.
It's like purgatory. Okay, I wish they made that clearer.
It's in between Hollow Earth.
Okay, because I thought that too. Actually, I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure they went to Hollow Earth in
Godzilla vs. Kong. They did go to Hollow Earth,
and in Godzilla X Kong, I think they're teasing they're going to Hollow Earth again. So I'm like, how does that work? But if that's the case, then that actually, I can buy that. I can actually.
Totally I'll buy that a lot more.
We said that when we were watching it too, Adam. We were like, they've been to Hollow Earth and come out, and there's no problem. But then, so I looked it up, and apparently, speculation is that this is not Hollow Earth. It's something in between, or potentially actually another plane of existence.
Which might explain which if this is the case too, I think that might also explain why Godzilla is so old, or why he's lived for so long. Is because he's hid maybe not in the Hollow Earth, he's hid in this sort of purgatory.
But in this other place.
And that also explains why he disappears for ages on end. And stuff like that. Which speaking of that, and going back to kind of going into how clearly the creators put a lot of thought into this, I knew exactly the time jump was going to be when they got out of the Hollow Earth at the end of the show. Because of Godzilla's design when he comes through the rainbow waterfall at the end of...
Did they actually do that? I didn't take note of that.
They did. The Godzilla we see in the first half of the show is the one from 2014 with the smaller spikes, a bit more of a hunched over back. When he comes through the water, that beam there, which is an amazing shot. At the end. Yeah. It's the King of the Monsters design.
I didn't even take note of that. Wow.
Yeah, and I sat there and I went, it's at least 2 years.
Yeah.
I literally said, I think I said that out loud to you, Jim. I was like, it's at least a 2 years time jump.
2 years later.
2 years later. And I'm like, that was smart. That is so smart. I love shit like that. They clearly, because they could have easily just gone with the 2014 design again. And like, who the fuck would have cared? I mean, Godzilla's design changes all the time. But the fact that they put in that level of detail and said, no, we're going to pay attention to the timeline, and we're actually going to incorporate that and hint at it in terms of the time jump. And another one too that sort of came up was the sort of big twist that Kurt Russell's character Shaw. That the reason why he's still alive and as young as he is because he was sucked into this other plane, and suddenly he lost 20 years of his life. Because I remember that being a big fucking complaint in one of the videos that I did about Monarch. When we were speculating about it, I said, how old is Kurt Russell's character supposed to be? He looks pretty good for an 80-something-year-old.
Yeah, we were like, shouldn't he be like 80
He should be like 80 years old. And then suddenly when you see what's the main guy's name? Kentaro? Is that the guy's name? No.
That's the dad.
That's the dad.
Wait, Kentaro is the brother.
No, Kentaro is the main.
Kentaro's the brother.
Japanese kid.
Yeah. The moment when all of a sudden you see Wyatt Russell look over, right, and you see you see Kentaro's mother looking down at him through a hazmat suit. I went, oh shit, this is awesome. This is awesome. Because it kind of reminded me of Interstellar in some ways, where it has like all the gravitational changes and the time jumps, and I love that, and I kind of love how bittersweet it ends too, because actually let me ask you this, and we're getting into major spoiler territory here, but I'm genuinely curious. Did you guys have a feeling that Kurt Russell's character was going to die from the beginning?
I mean, yeah, aside of me, thought that might be
He's
the
too
case,
big a name of an actor. He wasn't going to stay.
He wasn't going to stay, I know.
Yeah,
but I love how his character dying works perfectly with the theme of the show. Because if you look at it and examine it with who lives and who stays and the themes of it being a legacy and everything like that, Kurt Russell's character is the only character in this show that actually doesn't have a legacy. It's just him. He doesn't have really a past. He doesn't really have a future. It's just him. And it makes perfect thematic sense that he is the one that ends up having to die in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that shit. I love that shit. I love it when your plot parallels your themes and everything, and you can kind of interweave them together. And I think this is another case too where I think the plot alone stands on its own without the themes needing to be there. The themes are just like icing on a cake for me. I don't know if any of you guys picked up on that, but I did.
I'll be honest, I didn't. But that's actually a really cool comparison. I didn't think of it like that.
Right, and yeah,
I just thought he was too big.
He was just too big of an actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I genuinely was so surprised how much he was in it. I was genuinely surprised.
I mean, that was what you described as the last episode. He was in the whole show, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I said he was going to be in like 3 episodes, and he's only going to have 2 scenes in those episodes, right? That was my guess, and I'm like, no,
and I thought it was
he's in
be
the entire thing.
I thought it was going to be more his son, but it was like 50-50.
No, it was very 50-50.
It was a balance between the two of them, honestly.
And I didn't even.
Oh, he's not.
They both do such a good job with it.
So
they both do such a good job with the character too, because Wyatt Russell clearly plays Shaw as a younger version of Shaw, and then you have Kurt Russell playing him as a begrudged old war-weary Shaw,
a guy who's seen some shit.
You've seen some shit. And I love that. And I also like how for a couple of episodes there, they almost hint that he's going to become the bad guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he didn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that it turns out that he wasn't really the bad guy. He just had a different agenda.
He knew he wasn't crazy.
Yes.
He knew he wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
Because like you said, for the past 40 years, he's been told it's not Hollow Earth, but there is no Hollow Earth. There's no such thing as kaijus. And he's like, no, there is. I've seen them. I've been there. Like, I'm not crazy. And I love this woman. Like, not.
Speaking of, not crazy, that general there, Puckett. I love how he loses fate with Wyatt Russell because Wyatt Russell wants some of that Keiko pussy, and totally screws over Monarch like a fucking idiot. I hated that. I hated that so much. But I love the moment when he comes back and he's talking to Puckett, and Puckett's like, "I want nothing to do with you, Wyatt. You had one chance and you fucked it up, or you had one job and you fucked it up." And like the moment Shaw then goes, "Godzilla's still alive," Puckett shuts up immediately, and he's like, "Whoa, no, we're taking this seriously again." I loved that. Like I loved that. That was I loved the little nuances and stuff like that. He reminded me a lot of Admiral Stenz from Godzilla 2014, where it's like he's not really a deep character, but he's got this intensity to him, where he's like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but I know it's bad.
I think that's a perfect representation of Puckett. He doesn't need to understand why or how the kaijus exist, but they do, and that's not good.
It's not good. Whatever this is,
not good for national security.
I think it's funny how it's like when they used they used the nuke as bait. It was the atoll sequence, I think.
Yes.
Or am I
Yep.
getting- Yeah. They use that as bait to get him, and it's literally them just point blank blowing up a nuke in his face. I just think that's so fucking mean.
Godzilla has survived 3 nukes
Bro-
to the face in this franchise.
Bro was hungry. He just wanted to eat, and they fucking exploded his
And
face.
they fucking made it blow up in his face. And
He
they
looked
did
so
that.
peaceful too.
They do it in Godzilla 24 in King of the Monsters too. Ken Watanabe fucking detonates an atomic bomb in Godzilla's face.
But that one was like a little more like meaningful. This was just straight up like he was trying to find like something to sustain himself, and it just
Yeah.
explodes in his fucking face.
It blows up in his
I
face.
felt bad. Bro. Like no, bro just wanted a snack.
Though I was
Godzilla
joking.
Continue to live for eons. His strict radioactive diet keeping him as fresh as a rose.
Yes. Because radiation does that to kaijus. It just does.
Every once
it
in
just
a while,
does.
you just blow him up, and
He's fine.
it's a
he's
skincare
fine.
routine.
But like I was joking with you, Jim. I was like, no. That entire scene, I was just shaking my head like, no, they were all dead. They were all dead.
They're all dead.
Like the moment that bomb
all
goes off, I was literally sitting there like everyone on that beach is dead. They are all dead.
Me too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you see this giant ass shockwave. You don't think that that's gonna affect them and
Well,
the
yeah,
radiation that follows the shockwave?
I'll say that's a running trope with the MonsterVerse is that they don't really like to go with the consequences of their actions. Like, I mean, the bomb going off, despite it going off like several, like I think they said it was like 50 miles or something away from San Francisco when that nuclear bomb goes off. I'm like, the fallout's gonna suck ass when it gets here, and I'm like, they don't even address it like at all.
I think this is not only a trope of action movies, but hey, here's a obscure reference. I watched Rampage recently with
fuck yeah.
Dwayne
It's a fun
Dwayne
movie.
The Rock
Yeah.
Johnson, and like he like has a satchel full of grenades, and like he like throws it like 10 feet, and it blows up, and like he survives, and it's like. That's not how grenades work.
That's not how
What?
it works. Or I like how grenades always create a fireball when in reality it's just like a poof of dust, and there's just
dust and
shrapnel flying
shrapnel.
everywhere. Yeah.
There's
Explosions
no
in real
fire.
life. Explosions in real life are rarely as exciting as they are in movies. Most of the time, it's just a bunch of things crumpling and shooting around everywhere, and you don't even know what's happening. And you start pissing yourself and crying. But that's fucked up.
if you survive the shockwave.
If you survive the shockwaves, right? But I genuinely like what was that freaking ion dragon? Was that what it was
Yeah, that was
called?
the dragon.
Yeah, the dragon. Yeah, I liked
the
that
wings in the
thing.
face.
It reminded me of Gauss for some reason
Hey, it
from,
was cool.
the Gamera
It was cool.
series. It reminds me of Gauss. I want to know if anybody in the comments thought that it kind of looked like Gauss. I kind of was wondering there for a while. Was it kind of like a reference to Gauss? But
I don't think it was.
I
they
don't think
just
it
kinda
was
went with
either.
the dragon.
It just kind of happened to look like a vampire bat. A vampire bat.
It definitely is supposed to like have bat like features to it, but I think that's just more so. It's just
Yeah.
a dragon.
Yeah. Yep.
Boy. I much preferred the like the ice mole one over that guy. But,
Oh
like,
yeah,
they had
the ice. Any monster, but I just think that takes place in like the snow and the ice that's kaiju related. I'm like, I love this because
yeah.
it's like such an area that's like hasn't been done before. You know, it's like ever since I saw Son of Godzilla, I was like, wow, these monsters look really cool when it's snowing out and they're fighting.
It's also
I'm
it's already such a hostile area to have
Yeah.
a giant monster there too. I'm like, oh fucking, like,
this
come on.
this is good. This is good.
Like,
Even
yeah,
though
in a good
I
way,
do think that episode dragged a bit.
It
It
did.
goes
Oh, no, I
it goes
agree.
into
No,
his
it
character.
does drag it.
Yeah. But I was pleasantly fucking surprised by all this. I was, and that's just it though. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm in love with this show just because it was a lot better than my expectations said it was going to be. Like, I had low expectations going into this. And because it was as good as it was, I'm kind of blowing it out of proportions. Ugh, excuse me. Or do I actually really like the show? Like, genuinely. And I think I lean on genuinely.
I think going onto that and what Lucas and you were talking about earlier with like um Godzilla -1 getting so much hype that like you think people are overhyping it, and I'm going through the same thing with Percy Jackson. Jenny and our friends have been overhyping it, and then you get that expectation that it's not going to be that good, and let's face it, the monster movies haven't been that good, and this is, you know, in that same monster verse. So you go in with low expectations and then you're pleasantly surprised. But I agree. I think it actually is genuinely good on top of being just better than what I was expecting, you
Yeah,
know? So,
yeah.
Well,
And adding on to that,
I think just really quick, and
go,
then
go,
I'll
go.
say this. See, I don't think you see when this came. I even put a poll on about it on my YouTube channel, asking, "Hey, what did you think? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Or do you think it was meh?" Most people thought it was just meh to negative, and I was like, I liked the fuck out of it. I liked it a lot. I remember after when we were
but I
done. When we were
I
done,
wonder if
Jim, I
that's
remember
because,
saying to you when we were done, I was like, I fucking loved this. I was like,
and two things to go along with that. I wonder if it's because your audience is definitely more so the hardcore um Godzilla fans,
and
and
I'm
you know,
not.
kind of like Lucas and Luke. No, you are. But what I'm saying is like Lucas kind of agreed, at least from his initial assessment, was it was okay. It was great. It was good. It wasn't great. Like, and if you're leaning between meh and it was the best thing I've ever seen, a lot of people are going to say it's meh and not terrible or the best thing I've ever
Mhm.
seen. Also, going with, you know, because of our schedule, and I had to cancel one night, um, but like we were behind like 1 or 2 weeks behind everybody else, and you did not watch anything or get spoiled on anything, but you being in the Godzilla scene, you got some tip-offs to certain episodes, and even more so, there's one that you were like, "Oh, they go really SJW in this
Oh
episode. I have a
yes,
feeling I'm
yeah,
not
I
gonna
was,
like it." And
yeah,
then we watched that episode, and we are like, that was pretty good. This was a great
yeah.
episode. It
I was a
wasn't
little
the best
worried.
thing, but like
I was a little
I
worried there
just
for a
like
bit.
that.
I was a little worried there for a bit because they're really leaning into woman power for a while there because we have a lesbian character first off, which a lot of people were bitching about online. I
All they
I don't
did was hold
fucking care.
hands.
All they did was I don't fucking care. I didn't think my issue with her being a lesbian is that it didn't add anything to her character or take anything away from her character. It was just there for the sake of being there. It wasn't a part of her character. And I'm like, okay.
But see,
But
that's what I
the
don't
only one
mind.
that I remember, the only one that I started getting angry about was when Keiko was sitting there and she was complaining to Wyatt Russell's character that just because she's a woman doesn't mean that she can't do things that men can. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. But then they start going into the Japanese thing, and how like, oh, Americans are just racist, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Let's look at this historically for a second. World War II still happened in this universe pretty much the same way it did in our universe. This takes place when? This is the Bikini Atoll incident, so okay, 1952, 1953. Yeah, a lot of those people are going to have friends who were killed by the Japanese in the war. Sure, they might not be wrong. They might be in the wrong for kind of looking down at the Japanese people, but you can't forget that we were just at war less than 9 years ago. Memory goes a long way, and it's like that nuance which could have made this very interesting and should have made that very interesting wasn't there, and that was my problem. However, they dropped it in the next episode like almost immediately, so it's like it wasn't something that I could really dwell
Yeah,
on,
they didn't
which was a good
linger
thing.
on any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of need to. I don't know if I would disagree, but like so many shows and movies lately have been literally forcing like gay characters on you, and I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. I have no problem with gay people in real life, but I almost think they did it not quite the right way, but they did it much better in this, where again, it was just a handhold. They don't need to make a big deal about it. It doesn't need to
Well,
be a part of her
if
character.
I,
She just likes her.
if I
That's it.
remember
It's
if I
that
remember
simple.
correctly, if it adds anything to the plot, it just shows that is Keiko is her name, isn't it?
No,
Oh, is it Kate?
that's the
Kate.
It's Kate. Yeah, Kate. It just shows that she's kind of a scumbag like her dad because she's cheating on her girlfriend in that as well. She's sleeping with another woman before
Well,
2014
no,
happens.
her wife died. She was on the bus. Or
Yeah,
girlfriend.
but I could have sworn she was sleeping with another woman in the beginning of that
Oh,
scene,
at
and
the
that's why she was
beginning?
and that's why she was so guilty.
Oh, I think you may be right. I don't remember now, to
I
be
think you're right
honest.
too. That seems.
Well, before we
But
go in,
yeah,
actually,
it makes her dad.
I literally
But
just
again, like
found the synopsis
it didn't
from it.
feel forced. Like,
In
okay,
2014, 2 days before Godzilla's emergence, Kate is in a relationship with fellow teacher Danny. On G Day, feeling guilt over having cheated on Danny, Kate chooses to leave her behind and chaperone Russ's character. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that did happen. That happened literally right before G Day happened, which I think, as silly as a term, I love the term G Day. I love the term.
I do love that. I do love that term G Day. But again, I think that does kind of play into the legacy thing a little bit. You know, like
that she's
father, like
continuing
daughter.
the legacy.
Yeah, she's got two parallel things going on, just like her dad. But anyways, I'm sorry, Lucas. You were going to say something about something.
I was just
earlier,
going to talk about, because like to me, hype is a very dangerous poison.
Yes.
And it is something that I have kind of, if I can pride myself at anything, I've over the past year or so, I've been really, really good at tempering expectations. I will see something and I will just kind of gauge how I feel like it's going to play out. And as of late, it's been honestly a positive experience. Like if something like this was like, I expected it to just be fine, be okay. And I came out like, no, there was actually some good stuff here. It wasn't like the worst thing ever. It wasn't like I was like hyping it. Like I wasn't like sitting week after week. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be the next episode. I'm like, oh, we got the next episode to watch this week. Cool. Great. But hype is a dangerous poison. It's a dangerous poison that I don't really like to be part of anymore. Like I don't like to, I get excited for things, don't get me wrong, but I don't like to be like that vocal person online who's like, to me, I hate the phrase peak. I hate when people are like, oh, it's peak fiction. Oh, it's going to be peak this. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I do agree with you.
It's so annoying. It's so annoying.
I do agree with you. Well, I was even giving Godzilla -1 the cold shoulder when it was coming out because I was like, eh. But
that was the case where it's like I knew -1 would be good. I just didn't think it would be like that good.
I didn't think
that's
it
a
was
nice
gonna be
surprise.
that good.
That's like a nice present.
Yeah.
It's like oh, it's better.
I love it. I
Lucas,
do. I genuinely.
What's up? What up?
I wish that I had your wisdom. I went into Echo thinking it was going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Poor bastard.
You just gotta look at it and be honest with yourself and just see what you're looking at so far and just like keep it.
Well,
level.
I only watched the one trailer for Echo, and in the one trailer, they showed the minute and a half that was good of that show. And I was like,
that happens too.
If this is going to be like, if this is what they're showing, they're going to do so much more. Daredevil's here. Fisk just got shot in the face. Let's go. And that's all that happened.
Sometimes you'll low roll like that too. I'm not gonna say that don't happen. Sometimes you'll low roll and it's like, ah, shit. It's like, oh, we're for a stinker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Though you did say something.
To me, don't be annoying about hype. That's my biggest thing. Just don't be annoying about it.
Well, you said something that was very interesting, Lucas, and if you go in something with like kind of meh expectations, where it's like, yeah, it might be good, but you're not expecting Citizen fucking Kane, and then all of a sudden you watch a movie and it turns out to be way better than your expectations. It's a very fulfilling feeling. It's a very good feeling. Like the only other one that I could kind of think that kind of like compares to that is I think what comes to mind, a movie you've seen when you're a child or like in your childhood and you haven't seen it for a very long time, and suddenly you watch it again for the first time as an adult and it's just as good as you remember it.
Oh yeah, I have those. I definitely have those too. Like I mean, luckily, one of the big ones for
Uh-oh.
me. Oh, I'm back. Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
no, you're back. You're back. Okay, we're good.
I
We're
transcended
good.
space and time for a second. I mean,
Yeah.
this helps is just the nature of this movie. Like, one of the biggest ones for me was a childhood movie for me was The Iron Giant. I saw that in theaters.
You know, Lucas, I was literally just about to ask. I was like, let me guess, yours was The Iron Giant.
I saw that in theaters as a child. I had it on VHS as a child. I watched it like all the time when it aired on Cartoon Network as a child. And hey, lo and behold, oh wait, this is actually a really good fucking movie. Like, it's really good.
Mine is, if anyone's curious, mine is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah,
that was the movie that I remember.
I'm not even a
as
Star
kid.
Trek guy, and that's a good movie. That's a good.
It's a great movie.
I also think too, it's you got to be honest with yourself. Like, if you go into something and like it's universally praised and you come out not liking it, you got to be honest with yourself. You can't just lie to yourself and be like, oh yeah, I still thought it was good. You have to be honest and say like, yeah, I understand it's high points, but I just didn't like it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I also want to say this too. And this is something that's more come with age as I get older and shit.
Yeah.
If you like something that everybody else seems to hate, like it anyways.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. I agree with you on that.
And the same as if it's something that you don't like that everybody else seems to like, you just don't like it.
Bro, yeah, that's been my mantra. That's been my mantra since like middle school. It's like I was bullied for liking like Sonic anime and stuff as a child, and like
as you should.
As I should have been. I agree. Honestly, I should have been bullied harder. They should have bullied me harder. But look at me now, baby. I'm still the same Lucas. I got a fucking Sonic Xbox controller for my PC sitting right here. Fuck y'all.
I've got to say, you've got a real sick ass fucking set going on in the background. Well, yeah, what have I got? I've got like Napoleon, a bunch of history books, and a fucking degree up on the wall. Oh, and a bear, I guess. Sure. Fine.
Bear's pretty cool.
I genuinely, completely fucking off topic, I genuinely want to get whatever you have in the background going on with your lights, because Jesus Christ, yeah. I like that.
Like I said, it's just when Halloween rolls around,
yeah.
If you have a Spirit Halloween, that's where they sell them. The only thing is they're limited in the colors they have. They're limited in the colors they have.
Yeah, well, if it's blue and purple, I could do that. I would like red, but I don't think we're going to get
worst case scenario, when it rolls around again, if you don't have a Spirit near you, I can snag you some and ship them out or some shit.
Yeah.
Adam, I wonder if you can just go on Amazon.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Jim, when the fuck did you just get back? You just scared the shit out of me, Jim. I didn't even know you were back.
I saw him walk in.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I recently did. I'm just going to ignore that. I recently redid this room too.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't know if I want to do what you did, Lucas, with the and Adam always loves when I do this, so I don't know if I'm gonna do what you did.
That was cool.
And do lights around the rim or not? But like, maybe
I'll
just
put
one
lights
of
around
those
your
things
rim.
on the floor behind me, pointing at the wall there. That'd be cool.
I think what you should do, you should uplight. You should get like a light bar and uplight, because that looks fucking. Like I've done that at work, and that looks sick.
I've thought about it, like seriously thought about it, but it's a
lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and like. Finding just like a C-clamp that you can mount onto even PVC is like $100 for one light.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
both of
these
you
are LED panels.
Both of you have far more sophisticated lighting setups. I have 2 lamps behind me, and 1 lamp here, and 1 spotlight lamp hooked on me, and then some fucking LED lights behind my bookcase behind me that I can change colors if I want.
Yeah. What does this mean for Monarch Legacy of Monsters?
It means
their lighting is insane.
Their lighting is insane. Actually, that was one of the things that I actually kind of want to talk about, especially since you're here, Jim.
Hey,
I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to talk to you about the cinematography of Monarch a bit, because I had an observation early on within the show where I sort of went, you know, it would have been cool if whenever it jumps back and forth between the 50s and 2015, the visual style changed.
I think we talked about this. I would have love, and I kind of didn't want to allude to it when Lucas was talking, because he does not like the changing frame rates and things like that. But I would have loved that, not only if it had changed aspect ratio, but if they had gone to like, because the whole thing of what's his name, Bill's character, is that like he's got this 8mm
Yeah,
film
he's got
camera.
this 8mm
I
camera.
would have
Yeah.
loved if they actually filmed on film and done 4:3
Well-
for all of the stuff in the past, and then everything in present day on some kind of digital camera
Hold on.
and 16:9.
I need to defend myself here really quick because I am a lover of mixed media. But when I say I don't like when the aspect ratios change, it's more so when it's like a subtle aspect ratio change that it's not really. See, that's an artistic tactical difference. Like that's a deliberate reason what you're describing. I'd be down. I would be 100% down with that. I like stuff like that. Like I'm talking when it's like you're just watching your generic action movie and it's changing from like different aspect ratios because it's clearly
You're
different cameras.
thinking of Michael Bay's Transformers 3.
That's usually what I'm thinking of. Well, I'm thinking
Yeah.
of, when it comes to that, I'm thinking of The Last Night specifically. That one doesn't.
Oh, okay.
usually work.
Yeah. Where it's like there's like
But
16
if
different
it's-
aspect ratios between every
If
shot.
it's a
and it drives me
distinct
nuts.
artistic reason, like how you're describing, Jim, no, I'm all for that kind of shit. I'm all for that kind of shit. And I,
Well,
Because-
then
because I
with you,
agree-
because
I
don't like
agree-
it when they go from 16:9 to 17:9 to
It's annoying.
2:1. Like,
it's,
no.
it's like annoying.
Well, and I
Stupid.
think this would benefit from only, and this is, let's say, if we change the aspect ratios, which is just a suggestion, but I think because there's more ways you can change the style. You could just go to different color correcting too, and it would look different, you know. But I think this would only have 2 aspect ratios. You need to stick with it. Have I don't know.
Yeah.
Have the stuff in the 50s be regular 16:9, like what the frame is here within this live stream, and then every time it jumps back to the modern day, quote unquote, it goes to the CinemaScope 235:1, and it kind of bounces back and forth that way. Even in the sequences where the action is paralleling each other and kind of cuts back and forth, it's only 2 aspect ratios. You can follow that, but I think you could have easily kept it 235 the entire way through and just change the visual tone of the color correcting. The color for this for Monarch is green. I don't know if you guys could tell that or not, but it's clearly everything had a green hue to it.
Yeah.
Throughout. And sometimes, if you weren't paying attention, especially early on, you didn't know if you were in the present or if you were in the past. But at the same time, I don't really think that's a complaint from me, because I think it was very deliberately done so that way to keep you on your toes. Like, are we in the past now? Are we in the future? And I also, now that I've seen the show in its entirety, I think that initial confusion works into the themes of the movie, or of the show. Because remember, the whole time jump skipping thing that happens at the end of the series, suddenly we don't know when we are. We don't know where we are in this timeline. And I think it foreshadows what's coming later in the show. Yeah, guys, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I thought it was shot pretty well.
I think it looks pretty well. I think there's some piss poor lighting in a couple of scenes where I'm like, oh,
I didn't
God.
really. That was like probably one thing. I didn't take much note of like the cinematography. I just thought it overall looked fine and safe.
It
and that
was
really
very. It was like some of the Star Wars shows where it's like it doesn't look bad. It just looks.
Yeah, it
It's
just
safe.
looks fine.
Meh.
It looks fine.
Like,
Fine.
like,
Yeah.
like Lucas said, it was safe. There
Fine
was
and
no
safe.
dramatic lighting
Yeah.
in any of it or
no
anything.
no
like
real
that.
like experimentation with it. Just
Right.
and it's just by means. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like the time travel aspect, that since they handled that so well, I'm willing to forgive the lighting being a little bit safer.
I agree
Oh
with you.
yeah, I'm definitely.
I
and
hate time travel. I hate time
well,
travel.
I don't really consider this
uh,
time travel. I don't, because instead of it going back in time and
not,
forward
I
in time,
know,
it's linear forward.
I should say I don't like time manipulation. I get
okay.
confused very easily, and Star Trek, love it or I love Star Trek, but anytime they do anything with time manipulation, I absolutely hate it.
I was gonna say
They've
you
never
probably
handled it well.
You've got to hate the two-parter with Data and Mark Twain. Then
Yes,
I love that
yes.
episode. I love that
And
shit.
it just shows that do that. Marvel has.
Marvel does it a lot.
can't
DC
follow it.
does it a lot.
But this show, I think they did it was confusing when you watched it, but then at the end, and really in that second to last episode, and it all came together, I was like, that's how you do time manipulation. Like, I got it. And I kind of felt like, ooh, I'm hot shit. I got time manipulation. I understand what's going on.
It kind of reminded me, actually, if I'm being completely honest, the entire last episode kind of reminded me of a kaiju version of Interstellar. Because Interstellar goes into that a lot, and I'm in full disclosure, guys. Interstellar is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I love Interstellar.
That's a good ass fucking movie.
And I like that. And you know what else it kind of reminded me of? I don't know if you've seen it, Lucas, but I know a couple people in the comments definitely have.
I haven't.
Another piece of media by Hideaki Anno, Gunbuster.
Adam, I wasn't expecting to get called out for not watching Gunbuster tonight, and I'm constantly a friend of mine constantly rags on me because you need to understand. Gunbuster was also a big inspiration to my favorite anime of all time, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. So the fact that I still haven't seen Gunbuster yet is like embarrassing to me. And I wasn't expecting to be called out of it right now. And quite frankly, I'm going to get a call out post prepared for you tomorrow. I will not handle this later. Now we're really having a fight. No, I gotta watch. I have to watch Gunbuster.
It is. If you can get past the first 2 episodes, because they're pretty insufferable. The first 2 episodes are pretty insufferable. The final 2 episodes are peak. Like it does a complete 180.
Fucking, I'm out of here. I'm done.
I'm done.
No, I'm kidding. No, I have to watch Gunbuster.
It is very good. But Gunbuster does something very similar with the time dilation thing. So, where the ending of Gunbuster is very bittersweet, similar to the ending to Interstellar. It's very bittersweet. I mean, everybody he knows is dead. He's just seen his daughter die of old age while he's still in his 40s. But yet he knows he's succeeded. He's done his mission. He's done his job. It's the same on a much smaller scale in this Monarch show. It's a very bittersweet ending, and I'm excited to see what's happening next. You know?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it'll get another season. I just feel like it's gonna. I don't know how it would even have another season because the story was so contained during that time period. It would have to.
It would have to focus on May and Apex.
Yeah.
Apex is going to be the new bad guys.
Even if it was like if they delved into explaining what she did, like a prequel to this, I'd be okay with that. And even if it's not 10 episodes, I'd be fine with like a 4 or 6 episode miniseries kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'd totally be down with that and like
sure, yeah.
Getting to know this universe more if they're going to put as much effort as they did into this more shows.
And I think I would be okay with that too. I'm actually okay with these shows being like the interludes between the movies.
Yeah, sure.
Like I'm more than okay with that.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
It depends on how far they go. If it starts getting to the point where it's like we were talking about at the beginning with Marvel, if you miss one movie or one show and you're out of the loop, I'm not for it. I'm done.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't think that's going to be a problem, Jim, because this is the MonsterVerse.
I get that, but like, if May gets her background story, and then 3 movies from now she shows up all of a sudden, and we haven't talked about her since that show, and it's like, haha, joke's on you. You don't know who this person is. You should have watched that show. They're doing that with Marvel right now. Like if you don't know who, like She-Hulk's going to show up in the next thing, and instead of watching 15 pieces of media that I don't care about to watch the one that I do, I'm just not watching any Marvel.
Well,
I think it's all. You want me to be completely honest with you?
I think it all comes down to pacing. Pace yourself. And I'm not saying you, the audience. I'm saying you, the company. Instead of releasing 12 things every year, just release one thing. A movie this year. A show the following year. A movie a year after that. Instead of just going and puking all of this crap in front of you, in which half of it is this unpolished mess anyways, because you're in such a rush to try to crank something out and try to milk a franchise.
Just have a clear vision and artistic focus. That's like...
I think a good example of that is what Amazon's doing with The Boys right now. Like they did the spin-off show Gen V. I'm willing to bet that they're almost done, if not already done, with The Boys season 4.
Yeah.
And it takes place only 5 days after Gen V. We know this, but they're waiting until end of this year, middle of this year, to release Boys season 4, even though Gen V ended a couple months ago. That's good pacing. They have the content, but they're not oversaturating it. They're waiting, letting people soak it in, and then releasing something that is good.
I feel that too, actually, with another Amazon Prime show, Invincible.
Invincible, yes, that animated show. Yeah,
I really like Invincible. People online are so impatient, and it's like, because they did 4 episodes for season 2 and then took a break for a little bit, and then I was like, what? It was only 4 episodes. It also ends on like one of the best episodes the series has done so far, for the record, for context. And I'm just like,
cliffhanger though.
Kind of, but like not in a way that it's like you're waiting that long. And also, it's a 2D animated show. 2D animation takes a long time. Like I would much rather them drop a few episodes and not work the animators to death and get a good product out of it.
Don't do what they did on Attack on Titan. And literally kill your staff. But
certified Mappa moment.
So
certified Mappa moment.
I would rather have few of something that is unbelievably good, like god tier levels of good, than a lot of something that is mediocre. And I don't think a lot of people can wrap their heads around that.
Well, the thing is, it's just everyone is so like has to have everything right now. That's just what it is like. That's what media consuming is like now. Is that it has to be rapid fire, it has to be binging, it has to be right away. And I'm like, I've never agreed with that. I just don't like that idea of consuming media. I binge watch every now and then. I do. Like,
I do. Oh yeah, I do. In full disclosure, I binge watched. I just recently binge watched Asuka. Not Asuka, fucking Ahsoka on Disney. That was the most recent show that I binge watched, was that. And I was glad I watched that. But I also love the fact that was literally only 8 episodes. Yeah. Didn't overstay welcome.
Jim?
I think I disagree with that. That like everybody wants everything now all of a sudden to some extent. But like if I think about my favorite show of all time, which is Deep Space Nine, you got 20 to 25 episodes a year, and you only had a 6-month break between the next season starting. Now, when you watch a show, you get 8 to 10 episodes, and then you got to wait 2.5 years before you get another 8 to 10 episodes. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think that there's so much content, so it's like, let's move on to the next thing, but not necessarily like, oh, I want the conclusion to that story now. It's I need something else.
I think there's a bit of a shift there in terms of what type of content's being made too, because you mentioned Deep Space Nine. Back then, TV shows did not have big budgets. They did not.
I know.
They did not have the style of level of sophisticated filmmaking that you see in shows today.
Season budgets now.
Well, how expensive was that god awful Amazon Lord of the Rings show? That was several hundred millions. Oh.
It was $500 million. 250 million for the rights, and then 250 million for shooting.
Shin Godzilla cost less than 15 million, and and I'm sitting there like, that's a show. Like, come on, guys, come on. What
Yeah,
the
man.
fuck?
Movies are made for less than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sitting here,
Like Marvel movies are made less than that.
and I'm sitting here, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, yeah, because no wonder why it takes 2 years for the next season to come out, because there's so much CGI and horse shit that goes into it. It takes forever to put the
Well,
goddamn thing together. And I'm like, you
it's
compare
funny
that to
that
like when they were making Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Oh yeah, look how much the fucking seats are wobbling all over the place. Oh yeah, you could definitely tell that back wall's made of cardboard. You
well, they
know?
played that up too, because they would always have Odo come in and be like, "Oh, you got to fix these wobbly chairs,
You
Quark,
gotta
or
fix
that's
these
a
wobbly chairs.
violation." But in somewhat seriousness, it's funny that you mention that the most recent Thor movie, and that had like a $350 million budget, and you look at the CG in that, and it's awful, and then you
Awful.
compare that again to minus one, which I didn't see yet, but I've seen some of the trailers, and it's like you can already tell that that obviously looks better than Thor: Love and Thunder, and alluding to what we've been saying all night, the passion behind it is why it looks so much better.
Well,
These people are passionate about the content that they're making.
well, there's a passion has to do with it, but I also just think the lower budget forces you to be very conservative and very picky about how you show things, and I think how you show things is just as important as putting a fuck ton of money into something and giving them a fuck ton of time. And the thing too with all that, I think the movie that Godzilla minus one really got compared to, and why everyone was like, Godzilla minus one looks so good while Hollywood looks like shit, was the new Flash movie. Fake CGI babies. I don't know if you guys heard all about that. Yeah, it's awful. And I saw the clips, and I'm like, it looks god awful. I'm like, they spent $250 million on this horse shit.
That's not even the tip of the iceberg for that movie. That's
Oh,
not even
no.
the tip.
Oh
There's
no.
the finale of that movie is a CGI mess to the point of like I'm actually a big hater on this movie. So like
okay.
I've gone out of my way to shit on this movie. What'd you say, Jim?
I would have never guessed.
Well,
No.
I mean, when you do a scene where you have like all different Supermen show up, and then you make a digitally imposed George Reeves Superman, yeah, I kind of take issue with that. If you know the history of George Reeves Superman, I kind of take a little issue with that. And also, I just hate the act of de-aging people. I think it looks weird, and it never looks good.
Yeah, and I agree. Which, by the way, speaking of digitally de-aging, how wonderful was it that we got Wyatt Russell to play young Kurt Russell?
Yeah, that's so clever. That's great.
And despite the fact that they don't exactly
Let's normalize that.
I want to. Yeah. Well, granted, this is also a unique situation, right? Because not many people have nepo babies, and their son can literally play them. Very rarely do you have a scenario like this. But props on the filmmakers for being like, we could totally get away with that.
Yeah,
because I was genuinely terrified when I heard that, because Kurt Russell being announced for the show was announced way before we knew anything about Monarch and what was going on. And I was like, are they going to fucking digitally de-age him? Like, are we going to get The Irishman with Robert fucking De Niro being 20 years old at the beginning of the movie? I'm sick of that. Like, guys, just find new actors.
There was fucking the newest Indiana Jones, like the first like.
Oh, ooh.
I mean, that movie. I saw that was another ironic watch with friends, because I mean, I'm a big indie fan. I like Indiana Jones a lot, but that was an ironic watch with friends, and like a friend of mine only just recently like watching Indiana Jones movies for the first time with us, so like we was like, fuck it, let's see it in theaters. One, that movie sucks. And two, the whole like first like 20 to 30 minutes is like de-aged Harrison Ford, and it looks so weird. It looks fucking off. And I'm like, this is so lame.
Yeah, and I'm so sick of it. It's almost like they're going to start bringing dead actors back to life and putting them on screen.
Yeah, it's like
they're already doing that.
Yeah.
I have to say though, the one that I didn't mind was Paul Walker's brother playing Paul Walker in Fast 7 or Fast 8. I didn't mind that. I thought that it was actually a really nice tribute that his brother finished the film and then they put Paul Walker's face on top of him, and I didn't mind that. But like,
I didn't know this was a thing.
yeah, Paul Walker died and halfway
Well,
through
I knew he
filming.
died. I knew he died, but I didn't know they did like a scene with him and he like took his brother and put his face on him.
Yeah. I didn't mind that, and I thought that it looked pretty good, and I think it's if it's done as respect or not. In the latest movie, though, they like have Paul Walker's, I think it's his Nissan, like show up at the end, and they open the door, and it's that classic like only showing the feet, and
Yeah.
it's like that's disrespectful.
Wait,
Like
that was 9,
he's
right?
dead.
That was 9, right?
10.
That was 10? Oh, I thought that was in 9.
Yeah,
'cause
that
the
was
one,
fasten your seatbelt.
that
It
was
might
the
have been
one
9, but whatever.
because that was the
But
one I
like
saw. That was the one I actually saw.
regardless, like that's super disrespectful. Like Paul Walker's dead. Do
Yeah.
not hint at bringing him back.
It's just
Like he's dead. Let it
Martin
be.
Casbury Smith, to answer your question, yes, I saw Rogue One. I was making a joke. Clearly, said joke landed on its face harder than CGI Peter Cushing did. Ugh.
But yeah, what I will say though about looking pretty good. Did either of you watch? And we're talking about Indiana Jones. Did either of you watch the indie trailer for the game that's coming out?
see
There's a
that looks cool
game
because it's
coming
in
out?
yeah.
I was gonna say that looked
But you
pretty
see, that
dang
shit
good.
works, though, because it's a game.
Yeah. It's
But it looks like young. Why am I
It's like
blanking on the name?
60s. It's like that animated Batman movie where they got Burt Ward and Adam West to come back to play 60s Batman, and I'm like, that works because they're just doing the voices. You know, it's not them being
I don't
de-aged.
think the one thing is I think for that game I actually don't think Harrison Ford is even voicing Indy. I think it's a different person.
He's not the guy who voiced Joel from The Last of Us.
Really?
Oh, Troy
wait, really?
Baker.
Yeah,
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker, yeah, and he sounds
That's
good.
sick.
Troy
Yeah,
Baker
that
does
is cool.
everybody. Troy Baker voices everybody better than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That game
Harrison
seems
Ford.
cool. I have high hopes for it. I'm still very cautious of it, but like it seems pretty cool what they're doing with it at least.
I know nothing about this, so now I am in Jim's position.
There is very little, not very
It like
little
just
known
got
about it. They
revealed.
did
There's
a
like one
okay.
45-second
Okay.
It's like just got revealed. It's
trailer on it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
just
got you. I got you.
Speaking of trailers that just dropped too, did you see that Hideo Kojima is making like a spiritual successor?
Oh no.
Wait, what are you talking about?
He's making action espionage
Oh yeah,
movie thing.
He just casually announced that he was doing another action espionage game, but I thought you were going to talk about Death Stranding too, because I am so ready.
Did you like Death Stranding 1?
Oh, I loved Death Stranding 1. I fucking loved it.
I didn't think it was
I
worth
never-
getting
I
past
never
the
played
10-hour
it.
mark, so I never.
It is a slow burn. It is hard to convince people to play it,
Yeah.
but I swear to God, if you stick with it, man, it's fucking awesome. I'm a fan.
Okay.
And this sequel looks fucking awesome. It's so fucking Kojima.
That's
Like, yeah,
my
I'm into
problem,
it.
though, because in the announcement for the action espionage interactive movie is what he's calling it. Isn't that what Death Stranding is? It's not really a game. It's like you're just playing a part in this story, and it's like how much more.
No, I'm gonna be that. It is a game. It is still a game. It's super like movie like, but like it is still a game. There's still like a gameplay loop that you do throughout the game.
Is it like Tall Tale?
No.
No.
It's third person.
It's a third person travel simulator.
Yeah,
I don't want to say walking simulator.
Yeah,
I know that
it's not a walking sim.
Just
you're basically a delivery man delivering things to outposts around the United States, because United States is so disconnected of an apocalyptic event, and you're literally the strand connecting America back together.
Aren't you carrying a baby all over the place with you?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's my BB. That's a whole other can of worms that I'm not gonna go into.
And then you're kind of getting chased by the shadow
Lucas,
thing.
Did you play?
And by Guillermo del Toro.
The Order 1886.
What'd you say?
Did you play the Order 1886?
No, because that game was poopy.
That's what I think of when somebody says an interactive movie,
Yeah, I mean,
and
like
I'm scared for Hideo
that's a legit
Kojima.
concern. That's a legit concern. But that also like that was a weird announcement because he also just announced another game he's co-working with Jordan Peele called OD during the Game Awards the last year. So like I don't know
But he
what
also said that this isn't going to even like start development until after Death Stranding too.
yeah.
So
It
it's going to
could
be a while.
yeah, it's gonna be a long time. I could even reach. So I feel like that was just I don't know. Like that to me is always like a fluff thing where it's just like yeah we're gonna do that.
And then a year and a half from now, it's going to be like it's postponed for 8 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That was a weird announcement. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I like Kojima, so I'm biased.
Jim, I know how you felt during the first hour of this live stream.
Okay, so now you guys have to talk about something that I have no input on.
All right, let's talk.
Fair.
Let's talk about.
We get 10 minutes of Star Trek now.
Yeah, let's talk about the fact that I'm about halfway through season 4, and I finally come across an episode that I don't like. It's finally happened, and that's because after season 3, not one episode there wasn't a single weak episode in that entire thing. And it's the episode where there's like this god entity who goes on trial with Picard and Data's the judge, and she's trying to convince Picard that that magic's a thing.
They're trying to convince her that she's Hydra.
Yeah.
And that she owns the planet because they signed a contract for 1,000 years of peace.
What a terrible episode that was.
Kind of crazy that I know exactly what episode you're talking about.
What a terrible episode that was. Like, what the fuck was that? It was pretty crappy. I was like, that's got to have been a filler episode. Like, that was something straight out of season.
But it couldn't
2.
It couldn't have been a filler episode because so much special effects went into that episode, and that had to cost a ton of money.
I know. That's the thing that made me go,
it's not a. They thought it was going to be a good
Jim,
episode.
The episode before that was the episode that introduces us to the Cardassians, and you got Mark Alamo, aka Gul Dukat, who's not Gul Dukat, comes in with his weird mustache.
Yeah, because he's got a beard.
He's got a beard.
Yeah.
And but it's that's a good episode. I mean, the Cardassians look weird. Don't get me wrong, but it's
like
still a good episode.
Effort, but you could tell that they were like they had their own intentions, and they were in the wrong, but they were trying to play nice and work with the
and I love the scene with Miles O'Brien singing with the captain there on, because he used to be the first mate, I guess, of that ship or whatever, and like they were once good, they were good friends.
You know what I recently restarted, Adam?
Ooh,
the Orville. I'm about halfway through season 2.
Oh Jesus, here we go. All right, we're going to talk about the Orville now.
I forgot how freaking good this show is. It's the best Star Trek since
it's
Enterprise.
The best it's the best Star Trek since Enterprise, hands down. And season 1 was kind of hit and miss with me. Definitely comedy first, sci-fi second, but season 2 is a little bit too much of a soap opera for my liking. Like, there's too much lovey-dovey, like, relationship things going on within season 2. But then all of a sudden we get the Kalon episodes.
I was gonna say the one relationship that does work is the Doctor and Isaac, which then plays into the season finale, which is
Doctor
amazing.
and Isaac are amazing. I love them so much.
It was funny because Jen. We went to visit my mom yesterday, and then came back, and so we were listening to the show in the car while we were driving back, and Jen sees Isaac, and she's like, "Is that Data, the equivalent of Data?" And I'm like, "No, but yes."
You see. Here's the thing. I actually think here's the thing with, if you know Mass Effect, I would actually say. Isaac is more like Legion from the Mass Effect series, but if you have to pick something from Star Trek, the closest thing that it's 7 of 9 is the closest thing I think to what Isaac is.
A greater hive mind.
Yes, clearly sort of outside of that hive mind. Which, by the way, the scene where he saves her kids in when the Kalon were going to kill him was awesome. That was such a good fuck yeah moment. I also love. I
best...
was a little nervous about season 2 when I was watching it, and I fell in love with season 2 on the episode where the doctor and the kids and Isaac get trapped down on that planet. The shuttlecraft crashes. And that episode was just so good. It was just such a good episode.
I think season 3 is my favorite just because of Bordas. That scene where like he finds that guy that's beating his daughter just because she's a female, and then he presents like his beaten daughter to the council, the union council.
So
that
good.
acting was phenomenal.
Well, that episode, that entire episode with 9 to 5 playing in the background while all this fighting was going on.
We're working
9 to 5. Was directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Dolly Parton is great.
Yeah, she's great. Her fucking cameo in the show is goddamn hysterical too. But that episode I found out was directed by Jonathan Frakes, and I was like, no wonder why this episode looks so good.
So the last episode that I watched was, I think, like episode 4 or 5, and it's the one, and I'll leave it with this so Lucas can get back in the conversation.
What?
It was the one where the Alaran, her name's Alara. The really strong security girl.
Yes, her
bone density breaks and they have to go back down to her planet. Her dad is played by Robert Picardo, who's the doctor from Voyager.
Yep.
And then when they get robbed at the end of the episode, I only just realized last night that the guy that robbed them is Dr. Phlox from Enterprise.
Yeah, you didn't notice that? Yeah, that's what I was laughing.
I didn't notice it the first time.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was watching it with my mother when I first watched it, and she was like, "Adam, what are you laughing at?" I'm like, "It's Phlox and the Doctor."
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, they're both doctors. I get it."
They hate each other. I love it.
But
anyways,
small little things. I love that show has well-known Star Trek.
Well, if we ever, yes. Well, it's also written by a lot of Star Trek people. I will say this. I think if we get seasons 4 and 5, I think they've hinted at what the main plot's actually going to be already.
It's not going to come though. Seth MacFarlane said that nobody wants to pick it up.
Nobody wants to pick it up.
Nobody wants to pick it up. That's the
and it's
he
fine.
wants to do it.
It ends on a good enough note where I'm like, I'm okay with this. However, they hint at a plot that I think would be awesome, and it's those aliens from that dark space that like turns everybody into spiders. Remember, at the end of that episode, they said, "We know where you are." They do a Borg thing. We know where you are. You have not seen The Last of Us. And that episode is clearly setting up plot. Is clearly setting up the big plot that's coming. In typical fantasy D&D fashion. Where
it's so bad.
Season
3 was so good when Disney picked it up. I don't understand. Like, there's no way it didn't get good ratings.
I don't know. I also think they just hate Seth MacFarlane because Seth MacFarlane is Seth MacFarlane.
But like, this is like his like Rain on Me or Uncut Gems of Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
this is the show. Like, he's genuinely a good actor and good writer.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane has been wanting to make a Star Trek show forever. That's been his goal in life, is to make a Star Trek show, and he's doing it with the Orville.
He wanted to be in Star Trek, and they told him no.
Yeah.
And so he said, "Fine, I'll go make my own."
My own.
And they won better than anything
modern Trek, new Trek, I should say.
Yeah.
So hi, Lucas.
Anyway, Lucas. He took a nap.
I just want to point out. I know you guys were talking about Ted. You were talking about Seth MacFarlane shows Ted. I know. Actually, it's really funny.
How did Ted get renewed for season 2, but we can't get freaking
season 4? We can't get the fucking season 4 of the Orville.
Ted was, from what I've watched so far, is genuinely pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie.
I've liked what I've seen too.
I want to say a comment really quick because it validates my feelings about something. Martin's recent comment: Dial of Destiny was just a nothing sequel. All the rants and complaining about Crystal Skull aside, at least that one felt more consistent to the series. Thank you, because you're correct. Mm-hmm. Because as much as Crystal Skull false, it still feels like a fucking Indiana Jones movie. And honestly, I'm kind of a defender of that movie, and I've always been. So I'm like, I just
Yeah.
want to point that out.
It's kind of
It's
like The
not that
Godfather.
bad.
It's The Godfather Part 3 of the Indiana Jones saga. Like,
I
it's
also would
not
argue
terrible,
it
but
really isn't that bad. Like,
it's not
and
as
it's on
good
brand.
as the it's
It's
not as
on
good
brand
as
for
the other
series.
ones.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to say that. That's all.
Well, gentlemen,
And yes, Godzilla, Kairu. I just looked
Kiryu.
it up, and
Godzilla
yes,
Kiryu, you
Vin
fucking
Diesel has
noob.
said that that's why they're making 10 movies, was to get 210 for Paul, which they're actually going to. I think they confirmed 13, which is ridiculous.
That's silly.
10 was awful.
Well,
10
if they
was
keep making
awful.
money, it doesn't matter.
I don't know how it made money,
I don't know
but
either.
it did.
I don't know.
And the worst part about it is, I know 11, which is a direct follow-up to 10, is going to be absolute dog shit, and I know Sean and I will go see it.
Yeah,
That's
because that's funny.
That's fine though. That's fine though.
No, it's not.
That's
It's a
your bonding
problem.
thing. That's your bonding thing. That's your male bonding, Jim. You don't have me to male bond with anymore, so
I don't. But
you gotta do something.
let's bring it back full circle. We watched Monarch.
We did watch
fuck
Monarch
is
together.
Monarch? Fuck is
We did.
that?
This is true.
I don't know
Oh
what we're talking
boy, Lucas, if you don't know what Monarch is, I got a really good, like, 2.5 hours, 3 hour long
Oh, shit, for real?
podcast for you to watch.
Podcast
Yeah.
for you to
Thank
check
God.
out.
Thank God.
It's called Was Monarch Legacy of Monsters Better Than It Should Be? Just
Who
check it out.
Who uploaded it? I'm curious.
Some
I
guy
think
named
Pow Pop
Ann
did.
Productions.
Oh, I heard of that guy. Oh, I heard of
Ann
him.
Pow Pop?
Productions. Who the fuck names their company Ann Productions?
I've heard of that guy.
Who the fuck is this asshole? Yeah, he really looks like a fucking fat piece
Yeah.
of lard. Look at him.
Oh,
Fucking asshole.
yeah.
Wow. A bunch of fucking losers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Who the
Talk
fuck?
about media.
Wow. Well, guys, it is 10:42 p.m. Eastern time.
Do you know where your kids are?
I've been up
I
since
don't
6
have any.
o'clock p.m. yesterday. I'm ready to go to bed.
That's fair.
I've talked about all I wanted to talk about and then some. Jim, would you like to? I couldn't speak English there for a second. Like I had a fucking stroke.
Yeah,
Did you guys see that? Jim, you want to pimp yourself out for a little bit? Pimp out what you've got?
I don't have anything. I used to stream every Thursday. I don't do that anymore. I really want to get back into it. Maybe when I get some lights. I find I moved. That was my big excuse. But now we've been here for like 4 months. So I really don't have an excuse, especially after redoing this room. So check me out, Scrappy Doo on YouTube. Maybe I'll get back into streaming. I usually play racing or action adventure games. But the more important person and the person that you should definitely follow is Lucas. Lucas, take it away.
Oh, Jim. Oh, you. You don't have to phrase it like that. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucas. I'm your little local funny man. I'm the humble host of Pal Pop on YouTube, and I do game streams for the most part. Trying to get back into making some short form video stuff too. I just haven't had the drive, and I also still owe my channel a review of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that will happen whenever. It'll happen.
You haven't done that yet?
I haven't done that yet. No, let's move on.
Unsubscribing right now.
That's fair. I don't blame you. But yeah, I mean, like this week I'm doing 2 streams. I will be streaming on Tuesday. I'll be playing Neon White, which is a great game, and then Thursday I will be streaming Pikmin. I know this will be irrelevant a week later, but I'm just saying it now. I'm also now the new thing this week though. I have opened up a specific email where people can send me fan art, so I'm looking forward to that too. So that's exciting. But yeah, you can check me out on Palpop, and I have a Twitter at @Scribbleshack, at Palpop. I post artwork on the Scribbleshack one specifically, and I'm going to be actually teasing a new artwork this week that I'll probably post at like the end of the week. So check me out there too. I think that's everything. I got an Instagram too. That's just Palpop, at Palpop, but the O's are zeros. If you want to check me out there too, it's just basically more art. So that's me.
Lucas,
And I'm Adam.
With my second channel. Sorry.
What did you say, Jim? What's going on?
I didn't realize he was going to go right into his outro. Lucas, I just subscribed to you on my second channel.
Woo!
Go to bed, Dad.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you very much for listening. We have a new documentary. I have a new documentary coming out on the last days of the Battle of Okinawa. That will be coming out soon, along with the podcast version of it, so you can listen to it while you're on the road. So do stay tuned for that. And on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, I will once again be playing Mass Effect 1. We will be heading to the planet Noveria to finally further the plot. So do stay tuned for that if you want to kind of come in there and hang out and say hello, and I would love to absolutely have you there. But as for this stream, I wish to thank both of my guests, both Jim and Lucas, for joining me. I had a blast. Pretty good conversation. I've had fun. It's been real. I don't know if it's been real fun, but
I had a blast.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
Again, in all seriousness, it was absolutely great talking to both of you. This is a new combination. Usually, it's Lucas and I, or Jim and I, or Antonio and I, or Jim and Antonio and I. But it's never been. I don't think it's ever been Lucas, Jim, and I in one of these streams. So interesting combo.
Well, also, interesting combo, and you'll be seeing it again soon. I'm going to overstep here really quick for Adam's next big stream of the Meg and the Meg 2, The Trench. We'll be going in depth on both of those movies.
We got to do it now. We have to do this.
We're going to talk about everything about the Meg, from the history of megalodons to
Hot take. The first one's actually pretty good.
Oh shit! We'll save that for the stream.
I haven't seen any of them, so I will be the noob of this. Well, you two are the total experts, if you will, on the franchise.
Oh, you know me. I'm such a Meg nut.
Almost as much as you love the giant claw, right?
I will leave you with this. It's Jurassic Park meets Jason Statham meets megalodons. There you go.
Oh, I thought it was Fast and Furious meets. I thought it was Fast and Furious meets Jaws.
Nope.
No? Okay. All right. Well, I've got a lot of learning to do about this. I'm looking forward to this new live stream. We will do this now. It's going to happen now. It's just going to happen. All right, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. Links to their stuff, links to these two idiots' stuff is in the comments, is in the description below.
No, that's fair. I'm not even upset. That's fair.
Anyways, thank you all for joining, and I'll see you later. Peace out, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.